It is Championship Sunday, and we are live from DreamHack Atlanta. We already crowned our champion for solos, but today we have all of the teams ready, and we are going to get to crown yet another champion. My name is Rich Campbell, and I have the pleasure of being joined by Supersonic. How has this weekend been going for you?
Dude, this weekend has been nuts, so we went ahead and started off with two separate tourneys. We had both solos and teams going on. We're going to have the team finals here for you very shortly, but yesterday we wrapped up on the solo finals where we had 120 players come and compete to go through group stages and join those 20 invited players. And last night, we saw that all shake out, and Rogue Sweet Dreams ends up taking down first place and crushing out that solo tournament.
You need to watch it. I mean, you can tell how hype it was. I have no voice left, completely shredded through that. We already gave out $100K in prizing as well. We have an additional $150K to give away today. Yeah, that is $250,000 in total. So excited to actually be crowning yet another champion. But for everyone who didn't get to tune in yesterday, if this may be your first time watching H1Z1, we should tell you exactly how the game is going to play out.
Yeah, this game here is different from anything else that you're going to typically watch if you're definitely new to this. It is a massive arena shooter, and what that means is that these players are going to be dropping into a map of 100 square kilometers with nothing but the clothes on their back. These guys are going to have to scavenge, find weapons, vehicles, medical supplies, and armors to protect themselves from players and the encroaching gas that's going to force them closer and closer together throughout the match, and they need to be the last team standing to take this down.
Now, if you haven't watched fives before, but you have watched solos, the game is still going to play out in a relatively similar fashion. You're going to have that early looting phase at the beginning of the game when the players actually do land and they're trying to grab all of those resources. Then we'll get into the mid-game. It's a little bit different when you actually do come into teams. They're really trying to test each other, take away resources, trying to get rid of vehicles that the team may have, trying to get rid of helmets, trying to get rid of any body armor. And in teams, the end phase is just absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, the end phase is definitely that point where we start not being able to keep up with the action anymore. That last circle is going to be absolutely insane. These guys are going to go off. You're going to see players dropping left and right. And it's going to be whoever can handle the chaos the best, or whoever can, as we saw yesterday, avoid the chaos and come in and kind of mop it up at the end. We saw Echo Fox do that amazingly through qualifiers yesterday, taking down both games in their division. First place, 5 up in game 1. 4 up in game 2, could have been 5 up, but Minnie actually decided to sacrifice himself to make a play to draw some attention to himself.
It was a beautiful play, too, and you have to say, coming in today, that is one of the teams that is a favorite. And what they did, basically, is they found that really good positioning, and they were just able to get pinches and just come in on fights that were already started. But one of the big things to talk about is how the placement is actually going to work. It's not just going to be one game. It is going to be a series of 3 games, and we are going to take points based off of placement and points based off of kills. It's going to be 1,000 points per each kill. Going to add all of those up over the course of 3 games. Whoever has the highest amount of points going to take first place.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to have a ton of teams here throwing down a bunch of pre-qualified teams. We had CLG, Obey, Denial, World's Best, and Luminosity all pre-qualified from the previous event at Fight for the Crown earlier this year. But we have the new teams coming in. Not necessarily new, but the qualified teams that are coming in to join them, like Echo Fox, Epsilon, Impact Gaming, Europe's Last Hope, Hail Chapter, Gangstars, and Team Caliber, who all placed very well yesterday and now have the honor of playing with these guys that were invited and trying to get their cut of $150,000.
Yeah, we did have those pre-qualified teams, right? But the other teams went on a pretty long road to get here to this final today. We broke them up into 2 groups, and they played through that group phase with 2 qualifier matches. The top 3 teams move on, and the 7th overall team, and that is how we got all of our teams here today.
Yeah, so that 7th overall team bubbling out, ended up coming out of Group B, just beat out PYD and ended up coming in. So I'm sure those guys, that's got to be a cool feeling, kind of coming in on the wild card. You think you're out, but you're actually in. It's like, that's a roller coaster. That's a stressful roller coaster ride of emotions there.
I mean, I think the team that it was probably the hardest for had to be PYD, right? Because they found themselves in a position where they really couldn't do anything about it, right? They slayed out pretty well. They had a good placement. They came in 4th in their group, and they just had to wait to see the next group play out, to see where the chips actually did fall. And ultimately, they were cut short in their tournament last year.
Especially traveling that far as well, coming all the way over from China.
They showed up, though.
They definitely did. I mean, they showed up, and they were aggressive slayers in the solos yesterday too.
We saw them. About to say, yeah.
They had no no slowdown, did not slow their roll at all going into finals. They played it the same way that they always play, and they were looking to kill. They were hungry. They were chasing down people.
I'm really excited to actually get a look at Luminosity. That is one of the teams that I'm most excited to see. Obviously, one of those pre-qualified teams, so we didn't get to see them in the qualifying matches. We had Drazzle up on stage yesterday for the solo finals.
I love that guy.
Yeah, and when he was actually talking about how they think as a team, how the shot calling works, how adaptable that they have to be, I just want to see them actually get tested.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to see Drassel go ahead and perform and be able to pull off what he was talking about. He kept it minimum. He didn't want to give away too much.
Yeah, and I think that was a big thing. Is we didn't want to ask any strategies, right? When we actually pulled him up on the stage, we saw one of the most dramatically different safe zones that we've seen.
Oh, yeah, that game 2 yesterday was
Game 2 of the solo
rough.
finals. The ring basically was pretty much off the map. So it was very small. You basically cut the ring in half all the way probably by the second ring.
Yeah.
And
and then absolutely you cut it and then you put them in an area of the map that they're just not used to seeing. Anytime you get a ring like that, these guys are just getting used to this due to that dynamic safe zone patch that came out a while back. These guys haven't had to play in these areas of the map as much as they have everywhere else. These guys have 2,000 plus hours on this particular map. They're very used to the safe zones and the area that's probably that inner 75% of the map, very, very familiar with it. But some of these safe zones are pushing them out onto those outer 25% along the edge, and that's a lot of area in terrain that they just don't know as well as they do the rest of the map.
Yeah, we've honestly seen it a lot so far here in Atlanta. We've seen a lot less of those city finishes that we were very accustomed to seeing. But when we pulled Drazzle up on the stage after that game too, we really got to hear some of the tactical decisions that the players do have to make. And that's one of the reasons I'm looking forward to watching Luminosity.
Yeah.
So also some other teams that really excited to see Echo Fox, obviously, and that's based off of those qualifying matches.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Echo Fox showed up big yesterday. They had a little bit of a rough time at Fight for the Crown, but they came in yesterday and just absolutely blew us away. Crushed it out during the qualifiers, went into the solos, and all of them placed really well. A lot of them placed well in the solos, but it does look like we are going to go ahead and jump over to the map here. We can see everybody is up into the in the air here. We're just going to wait for them to go ahead and take a land. In the spread here, I think that we might end up possibly with a Ranchito finish. We do have that northeast grouping of players. That is a very tight pack. I absolutely expect this to be a Ranchito or farther, possibly all the way up to Misty Peak, which would be insane.
I'm going to make a weird call here. We're kicking it off big from Atlanta right now at DreamHack. I think we're going to have a Harris Bluffs finish. I think it's just
going to go. Are you okay? Did you get sick last night? You didn't say PV.
I know. I think it's going to skew to the west here. I think it's going to be up in the north, though. That is for sure. But just want to remind you guys, we're just jumping in now. If you go over to h1z1.com/watch, you can actually be seeing all of the kills live during this match.
Yeah,
so you can actually keep a better track of the stats there. And, of course, the stream will be available as well. But this is the first Fives match that we're going to get to watch today, Supersonic. We should let everyone at home know exactly how this looting phase is going to play out and what the teams are looking to accomplish here.
Yeah, so the teams right now are definitely looking to just get looted up. They want to avoid other teams. You normally have one or two guys, possibly the whole team, depending on which grouping it is, stay in the air longer than you normally would in a normal match and try and see where your opponents are. You're going to come down, try and find your helmets, your ARs, all of your rifles, shotguns, etc. Get your team to a point that you have enough medical supplies that you feel confident enough to go out and start securing in the mid-game that safe zone and trying to get the best possible spot that you can hold and defend for the longest possible amount of time.
Now, what do teams actually go through? What is that thought process, whether or not to divide and conquer, to split up, or if they actually want to stay very tight together when they are in that initial looting phase? And we were just completely off with that ring.
What happened? There is no – the ring went ahead and just does not want me to be able to hit. I only get one for the weekend, and they're going to go ahead and drop out.
And that was an easy one.
I thought it was an easy one. I thought that I was gifted something, and I was baited.
Ring aside,
I
though,
was baited.
I think this is like a really big thing for everyone at home to be paying attention to, because sometimes you will see these teams split up very far. I mean, if you look right now at this team in the top right, Obey, they're able to kind of split up with the inside of Ranchito, and then some of the other teams are going to be grouped much more tightly together, some of them sending 2 players off into a different area while 3 of them stay grouped.
Yeah, so the way that these guys are going to do it, when you're out on the outside edge of the map and you've landed and you know nobody's around you, you can be a little bit a little bit more spread out. Spend a little bit more time looting areas and spread. But once you get into the city, you need to stay close enough that if somebody gets shot at, you need to be able to come in and support your team. And most of these guys are always going to, typically don't go off in solos. You're going to see them kind of split and at least have one travel buddy with them because you want that support if somebody rolls in on you.
Yeah, there's definitely a huge thing. I mean, you can change the tide of a fight if you can be getting multiple crosshairs on the aggressor. But at this point, everyone is going to try to avoid fights as much as possible. No one is trying to gun right now. Big thing, just making sure that you get everything that you need to be kitted for the rest of the match. I think if we see anyone in a possible engagement, maybe a couple warning shots, but for the most part, they are just going to swim away from each other.
Yeah, this early game plays out much slower than it does in solos. It is a lot more hectic when you get into that late game, though.
Yeah, that's kind of how the pacing of fives does end up playing out. I mean, it's a little bit slower at the beginning, but it's way faster at the end. You go from all of a sudden having at least 24 players on the map, right?
Yeah, you go 60-0 real quick.
It is definitely how it is going to go, but as we can see, we're starting to get kitted here pretty fast, and the way that this is going to transition after everyone does feel confident, they will start to rotate on over to that safe zone and try to get the best piece of real estate that they can, set up a nice little home there, and try to defend it throughout the course of the game. But we have seen time and time again that that plan does not always work very well if the gas decides not to agree. And on top of all of that, you have the other teams who are just going to be an agent of chaos trying to destroy your dreams of setting up a home.
And here we have Guarani, who actually performed very well yesterday, taking down Game 1 of the solo finals, and I believe he actually took down 4th, so cracking that top 5, going home with a little bit of money, a little bit of extra from that bounty system, which we haven't talked about yet today. There's a bounty system in place, and you make $100 per kill, plus most kills is going to take down a $3,000 bonus.
Yeah, and that is going to be going on throughout the course of the entirety of this series, so that's going to be all 3 games, so that gets combined together for the $3,000, but obviously that is just way more opportunity to be getting money on every single kill. So if you slay out, get 2 kills throughout the course of each game, that's going to add up to 600. Imagine what you can do if you get something like 6 kills. But I want to talk about Guarani for just a little bit here. He, of course, is representing World's Best Gaming. He's on that squad. Yep. And the reaction that we saw from them yesterday when he managed to take, I believe it was the 2nd game in that final solo series. Yeah. It was just a sight to be seen.
Dude, that was whole just, squad, man.
Oh, man, but that was just kind of yesterday one of the best parts. We actually got to see a lot of the players sitting in that front row and their reactions when their teammates did win. Hey, sometimes we saw teammates kill each other yesterday, but there's nothing but camaraderie at the end of the match.
Yeah, the world's best crew is definitely a bunch of nut jobs, man, and I mean that in the best way possible. So Bobby Ham, the owner of that organization, actually lives in the same city with me. I hang out with him a lot, and that guy is absolutely insane. He is a personality and then some, and
that's one of the
and
best.
His girl is just the same as we saw her running around doing the cheers. She did the soccer goal run down the sidelines, arms in the air.
It was like the Price is Right run, kind
of.
Yeah, it was something to see. Definitely go back and check that out in the VODs. But that's one of my favorite things about esports, though, when you really see all of the players on the team and the team itself just having a personality. And that's why following teams is so exciting, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I can hear very little inside these headsets, but yesterday sitting there with the live crowd in front of us and everybody was actually rushing the stage and just yelling at us, the energy was insane.
Yeah, I mean, that is actually a big thing to know because some of the players do go through as well. These headsets they're noise dampening, so they'll basically, you won't be able to hear anything clearly, right? But you can still hear the roar when the crowd goes wild.
You can feel it.
Yeah, it'll shake. So that's one of the conditions that these players are actually exposed to when being at LAN, and it is something that you have to adapt to. But now we are going to see that air crate hit the ground. Doesn't seem like anyone is too close to it at the moment. We can expect a fight to potentially go down here, but if anyone gets out ahead of the rest of the bodies, they may be able to take this one for free without even investing a smoke.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one's going to actually have 2 laminated. That's a big pickup if somebody can get there early and get this. Now, we saw this safe zone happen yesterday, I believe, in the first round of Group B. Now, this safe zone was absolutely brutal. So we actually see Epsilon here, and I believe Team Caliber had this position yesterday. But we saw the way this one played out when the safe zone pulled to the south side of this first circle. and it ended up being really rough for teams like Rogue, where you kind of got RNG'd in a sense out of it, but the safe zone's going to pull one way or the other, and one half of the group is going to be in a good spot, and one half is going to have to try to rotate. And it was absolutely brutal on the rotations yesterday. We also saw STD, who performed very well in that round, but they had an opening starting zone that if they could have held that the whole match would have been great, but the gas ended up forcing them down the hill, which
I
put
think
them in a rough
we
situation.
can really focus on this safe zone for a second here, because we didn't talk much about what it actually meant to the match, because we were just so surprised that this was the ring that we actually did see here in this first game of this final series. We saw teams take this little island on the lake, and like you said, they end up getting pushed off. But what is that final series of engagements going to look like? What does this telegraph for the end of the game being around? Like some initial shots going to ring out here, though. It's going to be CLG letting them rip through the sky. This is just a warning. They want this hill, and they have 2 cop cars up there alongside them. They can rain a little bit of terror from above here, but that is just a warning shot. They're not looking for any major kills, but as you can see, ELH, they're set up pretty well in this little environment. A lot of cover there. Epsilon, though, with eyes on them as well. In that 250-meter range, we can see pros 2-tap at this length.
It's pretty rough. 250's a long one. I do believe that there's actually cabins there. Those guys are inside. I don't think we're going to see any real engagements there, but we do see Impact Gaming coming through. Candy Van back there a little in the back. It looks like he's got a travel buddy in his vehicle too. They're going to hear some shots ring out as ELH kind of says, hey, we're here already, back off, and they're going to dip out the other direction. But we do have Epsilon having this middle area of the safe zone in the center of the lake, which works out well as long as the safe zone continues to center. If the safe zone decides to pull, as you can see, there is no cover on any side of the island, and if you have to travel into teams that are already set up on the outside edge of this lake, you are in a really, really rough spot.
So, yeah, exactly. It's a risk, but it is a very high-reward risk to set yourself up on that middle island. Because what happens if it doesn't center? You have to move through the lake, which is just wide open. So then those other teams, like you mentioned, who are set up on the outskirts of the lake are going to have clear lines on you. They're going to be able to sink some serious damage right into flesh most of the time. But the same is true. If it does keep centering, if that safe zone keeps narrowing onto that island, the teams that are set up on the outside are going to have to collapse in. And you know what? If you're set up on it, you are just sitting up on that perch, and you are going to be able to knock teams down.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that center safe zone, if it centers and we can, or a little off center, but if it ends up on that island, it works out really well for the people that got there early, because most of them aren't going to try and shoot the guy on the other side of the island. They'll leave a scout to make sure nobody's running up on him, but you basically have 2 teams that are just going to hold off everybody from coming onto the island. They try and drive across the water. Their cars are going to get ripped apart, and we're going to see the safe zone actually shift north. So we're not going to quite see the same issues that we saw for teams yesterday. We're going to have a lot more Spence Hills. We saw everybody avoid Spence Hills in the safe zone yesterday, and that's most likely from Fight for the Crown, because the Fight for the Crown event, the Spence Hills safe zone was brutal.
Yeah, that was something that we started to talk about yesterday as well, and that it's something that's already kind of been tested. Teams have seen how that final fight could work out there if you try to set up there. A thing to note, though, on the map, we did see one team very far off to the south, hasn't necessarily rotated to that safe zone yet. Do you think they're a little too far out here, Supersonic, or do you think they're just biding their time, trying to make sure they are on the outskirts of this ring?
They're biding their time. So, I mean, I'm not sure which team was to the southwest. I know Denial's in that southeast. Both those teams are just trying to hold that outer edge of the safe zone. We definitely saw the south side of the safe zones be really just not filled, and we also saw open field areas being left open, which allowed Echo Fox and Team Caliber to absolutely come in and mop up at the end, because nobody came and challenged them the entire game. That whole west side and south sides of the map seemed to just get left alone.
Now on board with Echo Fox, and we saw them do some serious work yesterday. A few shots kissing the bumper of their car for a second there.
Yeah, it looks like we got 4 of them here. Trying to figure out where the 5th one is.
Saw them way off.
There's probably another car here behind them somewhere.
There
he is,
Howie. He's the caboose of that caravan, trying to catch up here to his teammates. as they seem to be rotating over to a different POI to maybe set up base.
And that is a slow plane, so we should be seeing that new airdrop crate coming out of that one. You can usually spot the difference on them based on the speed of the plane. The slower one, gonna drop that, and then we'll hear a faster one come through in a moment, and it'll actually be the bomb run, and you want to be out of the way of this. Now, one of the things that we didn't talk about with these and the way the bombs function is it's going to spawn from a random direction, and it's going to draw a straight line. Now, the bombs are going to start right about on the crate. So if you drive towards the plane from the crate, you're out of the bomb's path. If you fly with the plane, you're going to have an issue.
Yeah, that is a huge thing to note. We saw just how deadly that salvo can be, taking out some teams yesterday, one of them in particular being Allure. I mean, they found themselves in a very tight position.
Both games, Allure had to deal with and that's some of the luck side, the poker side, the getting rivered out side, where it unfortunately happened to them twice, where they were in situations that they got forced into fights that they didn't want or had to stay in the path of the bombs. Either one isn't going to work out for you.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing was they had relatively aggressive positioning next to Noble Gaming, and then the bombs came down. They just got stuck in between a rock and a hard place, running into the bombs instead of Noble Gaming, hoping that
bombs,
they could
Noble or Vigor.
Yeah, they had Vigor right near them too. That is true. They were just
pinned in the bomb's path.
They were definitely pinned in there, and ultimately they make that decision to play with fire. Bomb's going to cut them down. So that is something to note every time that we actually do see one of these crates drop down.
That rotation of Denial was extreme. So Denial goes from all the way on the south side. Looks like they took the river all the way towards the northeast side of that safe zone. It looks like that they do have a plan in place or an idea of where they want to be on this shift of the safe zone.
Yeah, and the strategy could pay off. But now, as you can see with Echo Fox, we have Jerk Chicken.
Mr. Chicken himself, just waiting on it.
By himself, I mean, he does seem to have cover, though, from the remainder of his team. They're about 150 meters off from him there, taking some cover up above that ridge. But Jerk Chicken may be making the play.
He hears a plane coming. He's going to get out of the way, and we have another double laminated there. He's going to back off. We'll see if they decide to come back in for it or not. But, yeah, they're hanging out within range to be that support. They need to be there to get in time to help their teammate should he take fire.
They have two lines of play available here. It looks like Jerk Chicken is going to take the one that we already mentioned, which is to actually go for the crate. The other is they hang out and wait for someone else to come for it and start that early engagement and try to defend the crate. This is a pretty standard play here. So now he's going to see that second laminated, most likely going to try to throw that into the trunk of the car, throw another one on his body for now.
Yeah, only little minor thing that I think that he could have changed up there just in case. You have your team holding down one side. You know that 180-degree side there is basically safe.
Ooh!
And Jerk's going to get caught by the bombs and goes down. Almost makes it out. Doesn't escape, though. Echo Fox going to have to come in, hop into the car, start grabbing those items that he just got, and get out of there. That is an unfortunate first death, and definitely not the way that you want to start off this match.
You cannot be losing bodies this early. We saw that Echo Fox was able to dominate due to their man advantage throughout the beginning stages, throughout the qualifying stages, keeping that fifth man alive for such a long period there. That bomb salvo comes in, and that is going to put them on the back foot for the remainder of this match. We've barely entered the mid game. We haven't seen teams even start to nibble on each other, trying to tax each other and take resources away. Jerk Chicken makes the play for that crate, gets both those lammies, but now his team has resources that are much less valuable than Jerk Chicken.
Yeah, the plane was coming, he heard it, but he actually drove slightly with it. He wasn't exactly direct with the plane, but it's a pretty wide spread of the bombs, so he could have had the option to go the other way and turn left when he came out of the smoke and drive back up through the trees, but he tried to outrun it the other direction, and it just narrowly doesn't make it out, just barely gets him.
Now, if you are Team Echo Fox, how much is this going to change your outlook on the rest of the game? Do you think that they go for a different line of play? I mean, I feel like they need to play slightly more passively if possible.
I don't know if you can play more passively than what they did yesterday. They played very, very passive, and that even with 4, we talked about it, going down a player is huge. That really hurts your chances of taking down the game. But if they can come in and do cleanup and pick off at both teams that are fighting, like two teams that are fighting at each other, and eat away at both of them to try and even out the numbers so that it's 4-on-4, they just need to make sure that they affect everybody in that final circle so that they're not going into a 4-on-5.
If any team could do it, it is Echo Fox. If you are an Echo Fox fan, do not count these guys out yet. I'm sure you are still cheering for them, but as we saw yesterday, they were incredibly apt at taking those fights, like you've mentioned, Supersonic. And on top of that, we saw them actually being able to sacrifice Mini. So he tried to get that flank going, tried to bait out some other teammates, created space on the field. Definitely not going to be able to do something like that with 4 players, but if the 4 players who are up can gun efficiently, they should still be able to win a lot of these fights. But jumping on board with ELH, these guys seem to have been holding this position for quite some time, and it may be paying off.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of these guys actually used to be teammates of Howie from Echo Fox. So Zeke here has played with him quite a bit. We've seen him in tournaments. We've seen Razar play with him. So it's interesting to see as the scene developed, some of these guys end up on opposite squads of each other from who they played with for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours, and now they got to give each other a little bit of love taps here and there and put each other down. And I think it's a little bit of friendly rivalry. It's not quite the same as killing your teammate in solos, but killing one of these guys probably actually feels pretty good to kind of stick it to them.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a little bit of love in those shots, but a lot more of I want to take home the 150K prize pool that is here today. I do agree with you, though. It's one of the most interesting things as the scene starts to develop, to see the roster changes, to see when they happen, and to see what that optimal squad is going to be for each player. On board with LG, this is Drazzle. We had him up on the stage a little bit earlier, and
Great
this is
eyebrows.
one of the guys. Right? Just incredible eyebrows.
Did you see the GIF? Somebody gifted him out. Luminosity actually gifted him out and put it out yesterday on Twitter. If you guys haven't seen that, it's hilarious.
I used to pride myself on my eyebrows, and
You're
now
not there yet.
now I have goals now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Drazzle.
Drazzle, you showed him the way. And this circle is the one that cuts it down and starts the powder keg that we talk about every time. There is a lot of open terrain here, and we are going to see a lot of teams get cut. This movement of the circle, not moving towards Spence Hills, is gonna be rough for some of these teams. IG, Impact Gaming, with a great spot, I believe, once we actually get to see them. I do believe they're holding down the airport area here. Actually, they're not in there. They're actually a little bit off. Denial with a really solid area with this ridge and the tree cover. They have a lot of options with their cars in there. We'll see how they play that one out.
Yeah, I like what I'm seeing from Denial. The main cover for this area, a lot of the cover, as you can see, we have these scattered trees. A lot of teams going to try to hide out in there, but also a lot of texture. They can get inside of these ridges. Denial has both of these things going for them, and we didn't get to see much out of Denial yet. They were one of those invited pre-qualified teams, and also we look at Pineapples. Didn't have the best run in solos, maybe being a little cold, being qualified in both of these events. Has had the chance to warm up now. We're going to have to see what he can do right now. And you can see him rotating back up to the rest of his team. He's probably getting a few more resources. They're going to decide to leave this area of cover, though, trying to push up.
I don't think that they see anybody actually within the airport, and I think that they're actually going to try and take it. I think they fully intend. You can hear them shooting, and what they're actually doing right now is they're eliminating all the explosive barrels anywhere near their vehicles inside of these buildings, because that causes chaos. This is something that a lot of the players just don't like, and they try to eliminate them because they don't want to be anywhere near an explosive barrel at all.
So Nile decides to push up here. They have a pretty decent area to hang out with. They have tree cover. They have that texture from the ridges, but ultimately are going to favor these buildings, and that's going to allow for some very nice peak fire from them. And after they've exploded those barrels, it is going to protect them quite a bit.
Yeah, the other thing, though, that we talked about is that you're eliminating your ability to see the line, and Epsilon, with a super aggressive play, are going to roll up, get guns blazing. Apex Shay going to take out Cam Soda out of the car, lighting up the vehicle of Team Caliber. That vehicle most likely took a ton of damage and is going to be unusable for Team Caliber. The car, as it deteriorates, becomes much slower. It loses its torque, its ability to turn. Epsilon making a big play early there to eliminate another player, and TK is coming back to try and swoop up and pick up Linden, who is on the edge of death.
Yeah, he manages to get that smoke down to try to heal himself out. His teammates come through with the whip, try to pick him up and get him out, but beautiful play from Epsilon there.
Really
kind of
aggressive.
it's very aggressive, but it's that guerrilla style. You know, they all hop out, and that was incredible shot calling. As you can
Controlled
see,
aggressiveness, though. They had cover to use with that ridge line on
but
the hop.
on top of that, the shot calling was impeccable. They picked one player, sunk all of their shots in, and then after that is when they rotate to the second player. They realize that they've been aggressive for a while, decide to peel out, and they take resources left and right. They take away the car, and they also get to take away a man, and now this is going to be the optimal crate. We already saw how dangerous it could be. Jerk Chicken trying to move in there, sweep up these two Lammies. But if a team can get this safely, grab the Lammies that are inside of it and also the hunting rifle.
Aqua getting a kill there onto Grimmy. Not sure what actually caused it. Looks like it may have been a run over. Sometimes if it shows the two names, it's typically one player running over another, or he shot him and then the guy died to the gas and it nets you the kill. So Aqua scoring a kill there onto CLG early. So we've got 3 teams down a player already. We've got TK down to 4, Echo Fox down to 4, and CLG down to 4.
Yeah, and that is going to be absolutely huge. The teams that still have 5 men obviously going to have that advantage, but the most important thing that we're going to be paying attention to for the next couple of minutes here is which positions these teams decide to hold, because we are dangerously close to that final brawl popping off.
Yeah, this is a lot of open. There's a lot of these small tree areas that you can kind of make use of. Denial loses a lot of vision here being inside, but right now they're just trying to avoid any fights whatsoever, and there's a ton of cover for them. As long as the safe zone continues to center, they'll be all right, but they don't get as much information on where everybody is, and they are going to be forced to move, and this is going to be a ton of open field here. There is some ridge lines, hills, little dips and valleys in it, but this is going to be the ability, kind of like we saw in that open field play yesterday from Echo Fox, but it's going to start much earlier with this safe zone.
Yeah, and as we can see, another kill going to be picked up here. It's going to be Huskers. TK just gets eliminated.
They got stuck between Obey and Impact Gaming and TK with only 4 left. It looks like they tried to go in and smoke off on the side of a hill there, but they have players down the hill and up the hill from them, and that's just not going to work out.
Epsilon just set that up, though, a little bit earlier when they were able to take out that first member from the squad. Now as the gas starts to encroach, I don't think we're going to have every team make it to – we already have one of them moving out, but I don't think we're going to have every team make it to the safe zone. There's just so much area to get aggressive here. Echo Fox kind of shantied up here right next to Denial, and as you mentioned, Denial losing some of their vision going inside of this building. There's Isco, the Slayer, who has gotten some serious work done throughout the weekend with the rest of his team, World Best Gaming, going to sink some shots at about 180, 200 meters, looking at CLG. Some damage coming in onto Nightwalker. He's about 50% in. Howie going to connect with Yogi. And as we said, these two teams very close to each other in close proximity. Now at an even man point, we're going to see Flame, though, steal that cop car.
The other car is actually extremely damaged, which leaves Denial with no mobility. Echo Fox makes a big play, takes down a player from Denial, who's a huge threat, eliminates their car, and drives away, honks the horn to say, hey boys, later, and they're going to go ahead and jack that car and get out of there. That does not feel good. Yogi, a big part of that team and somebody that's definitely a part of that shot calling for that squad.
Yeah, you know it was a big steal when you decide to just honk the horn out when you screech out of there. That's got to feel really bad for Denial. They're
nice
brought down to they're brought down to 4 players, and then the ride is stolen from them. We see Beast fall down from Gangstars. Fight still breaking out here. It's going to be the members of Hale looking to get some shots into Epsilon. Gangstars getting down a member from CLG, but Mini goes down. This is going to be really bad for Echo Fox. Only 3 players, and Gangstars just getting deleted here. It looks like they only have 1 player left up. Adrian from LG going to fall down as well, and Gangstars get eliminated.
Yeah, Gangstar's going to be the second team eliminated there. Echo Fox in a rough spot right now. Also, Kevy going to go ahead and take out 10K. That's going to put them down to, I believe, 2 players left. 2 players. It's going to be a rough spot for Echo Fox to play out of. I expect them to lose another one with CBK Flame. I expect these guys to go ahead and play, or whoever's left, just hold off for placement points. Howie wants to get healed. Most likely, if they have the car, he's going to try and drive around and find another spot. But it looks like Obey either has only 1 player left, or it's just not, they may not be rendering in, but Howie needs to Just hold off as long as he can. Wait for other teams to delete each other. This safe zone is going to remove a ton of players, and a lot of placement points are going to show up very, very quickly. So as long as he can just stay alive and hide out, he can still net his team a ton of points.
Yeah, you could see him there a little bit earlier in the smoke, and his health bar was going up. He started to get those heals flowing. He may decide to opt into the gas for a little bit here. That is what he does, but as he makes that run, it's going to be Measly cutting him down. That is Echo Fox eliminated. Such impressive placement yesterday. But with these top teams, they do get sent out a little bit early. They have 2 more games, though, to bring it back. But now we have our 9 teams. Denial with only 4 players here, bringing out shots, connecting onto Imperial Hall. Imperial is at about 75% health. He's engaged with Epsilon. It's going to be a member of Epsilon who gets sent home, but it's not from the shots from Hale. CLG pinching in. Now Denial connecting with them as well. Epsilon getting aggressive early, and it looks like they are going to be sent nearly home. Split is the only player left.
Every side they are getting hit from. So they just died to CLG, World's Best, and Hale. So they just lost members to 3 separate teams. That is a super rough spot to be in. Splintexify is not a happy man right now, and Obey is going off. Definitely with the most kills this game, I believe. Kevy now landing another grenade kill and catching Drassel. Drassel and his eyebrows are going home for game 1. He'll be back in the next one, though. And Razar coming in with a little bit of denial with the gas nades there, trying to take away some positioning and movement for WBG. And Triv now going to find a kill onto his boy Sloth from Denial.
That is big, too. We talked about Denial really starting to heat up. Now they are going to lose a man.
Yeah, Triv there actually used to be on Denial. I don't know. Maybe that's a good feel for him. Tfue going to go down here to Shell Shock. Splint going to find a kill onto Imperial Hal. And Splintexify going to finally go down to Blood Inferno. And that is going to be it for Epsilon in game 1. ELH Zeke going to go down to another nade, or another player goes down to a nade from Shurima Wizard, and Nightwalker now eliminated by Golrani.
You got to give it to Epsilon, though, not going down without a fight, taking out one of those members in that final engagement. Amali gets sent straight into that smoke. Crank in a bad position. 3 Corsairs on him there, and we did see him get knocked out. Now it is going to be Measly to send home Memento, and a trade does come out. Blood Inferno taking out Calzy, and it's going to be the frag to send out Mobs, and this kill feed is just lighting up.
Yeah. WBG is going to just absolutely eat ELH here. Obey on the other side. Vago has nowhere to go. Piney is still sitting inside of the warehouse in the gas just trying to heal. I believe his team most likely dropped him some extra healables, and they made a decision early that they were down a player, a bad safe zone. Try and stay in and net as many points as you can. We are not going to take this game down, so we just need to get placement. We're going to leave one guy behind and take the fight. We saw him do it in Fight for the Crown and just narrowly edge out Rogue and make it into the placements to be here today as a qualified team. So they're very familiar with that strategy of just taking the gas and going for placement. Piney now actually has come out of the gas, though, and he is in a very rough spot, has smoked off a ton, going to lay here, hope that nobody actually physically sees him, and he's just going to wait this one out.
Yeah, World's Best Gaming finds themselves in an incredibly good position here. That's one of the teams I want to note. They could be doing some big things in this first game. They are also one of the most likely squads to get some eyes onto Pineapples as they start to rotate around right now. And Isco, this Slayer, can cut anyone down to size. They're going to move into the smoke. All they have to do is take Pineapples to move up in the ranks, and they are going to do it very cleanly. Now engaged into a fight with Obey, and we can see the shots sinking into Shurima Wizard, but he turns it around, knocking down Aqua. Then Shurima Wizard is taken out by Gas Runner. This fight is not over yet, though. Kevy going to be cut down. Measly following soon after, and Isco is lighting them up. Flowers on fire, going to get sent home by Chipsy from LG in that retreat. World's Best Gaming getting very aggressive there. They get to swing around the map. Flamehopper in between 2 smokes here and in between 3 teams.
Sitting in the back seat, this is insane. We saw Razar do this yesterday and then hop out of the car and net himself some extra placements. This is nuts. Flamehopper has to be shaking right now. This play, if it continues to work, is amazing.
And this is something that we saw Flamehopper do in Fight for the Crown as well. He is one of these other players who is good at doing this, and now he is in between that smoke, but he's still in the backseat of the car. Fight engaged.
Going out. Nuts,
no one sees him.
WBG's going down to Hale and Impact Gaming. I cannot believe that nobody spotted Flamehopper. Nobody's even shooting
right
the car.
in the middle
He's
of
just sitting there.
absolutely everyone,
He's
and no one
just
has
netted
any
third
idea.
place. IG gonna take down Hale there. One more player from Hale left. MiG across the way. We have Flamehopper and MiG left. That's it. One player on each team. IG has not figured out that Flamehopper's in here. He's hoping that Hale goes out first. This play from Flamehopper is insane.
Flamehopper's an absolute ninja. He's still in the back seat. The shot's going to chip into the tree there. They know exactly where MiG is, but they have no idea where Flamehopper is on the map. IG going to swing around. They obviously have a huge man advantage. Look at Flamehopper just watching them run around him.
Oh, MiG actually spots him and goes for $100 before he's going to go down to Impact. And just might as well, man. Make $100 if you're going to go down and net the points.
$100 and a huge placement.
And a huge placement. And Impact Gaming showing up big here in game one, and they're going to take that one home. But the play from Flamehopper and how long he managed to just sit in that car with no one else. I'm wondering who threw the smokes. I'm wondering if he's sitting in the back seat just throwing smokes out there and hoping nobody finds him. That play was awesome. He didn't fight for the crown, did it again here at Elite Series.
Very impressed by that play, but also by MiG there. MiG knew that he had to be somewhere else on the map. He sees him, and that shot from MiG, that kill from MiG, is going to secure his team that second place finish because it was closed. The team was about to descend upon him, but they ultimately, it was pretty clear they were going to be able to get that first place finish unless a miracle happened from the backseat of that car.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that safe zone was brutal on everybody, and a lot of guys, we started seeing them either trying to play the gas, hide out, just try and get those placements. So you had a lot of people doing that. That safe zone is also just a ton of open field, and it becomes who picked the right fight at the right time so that they're not getting pinched. You want to be the person pinching, not getting pinched. And Impact Gaming from their position was able to play it well enough to keep 4 players up and clean up that safe zone.
A lot of little things went wrong for these guys as well, and we can attribute that to the safe zone having to play a little bit differently.
Yeah.
But also, let's talk about Echo Fox. I mean, Jerk Chicken getting hit by those bombs, leaving the match very early there, and they just had that man disadvantage the entirety of the match.
Yeah, having a man down, going into a safe zone like that where it is so gun dependent and being able to eliminate your enemies very, very quickly is rough. Being able to get that kill on denial, get that car, a little bit of, as you like to say, a little bit of a cheeky horn there as they take off, but that safe zone
just
really
straight up
wasn't.
An insult. That was great.
If you're moving in a vehicle in that safe zone with that much open field, there's no real spot for you to drive through. All the other teams can see you. Your cars are going to get eaten, and you're going to be in a rough spot no matter how that one plays out. So that's a really tough final circle. There was no building cover. There was no major cover at all. A single tree that MiG was sitting on trying to figure out where Flamehopper was, finally found him.
I mean, sometimes you got to make your own cover like Flamehopper, just hide in the back seat of the car.
It's the only thing in the entire safe zone that he could hide in.
Yeah, one of my favorite plays, though, coming out from that game in particular, had to be that really aggressive play from Epsilon. Because even though it was aggressive, it showed an incredible amount of discipline, and it also showed how important listening to a shot caller can be. We talked to Drazzle yesterday from LG and talking about how shot calling actually does work in H1Z1 because it's a lot different than other games. You need to be able to actually contest the shot calls in an effective way. You obviously have a team of 5. Everyone's going to be hearing and seeing different things, and if your shot caller goes down, someone needs to step up very quickly. But when you are able to listen to a shot caller like that, everyone can be aiming at the same player on the map and bring them down really quickly. I mean, they had the full force of their 5 team members to bring down one player.
Yeah, so we talk about being able to contest your shot caller within certain situations. When you are in an engagement situation, whoever your in-game leader is for combat, it is I do not care what that man says. If it sounds absolutely insane, everybody must commit 100%. And sometimes in those situations, you'll see teams hop, and maybe one guy doesn't shoot for a second or he does something else because he's not sure that they should be doing that. They had no pause, no hesitation. All 5 hopped, immediately took the ridge. Nobody stepped up into the open, put themselves in bad situation to get turned on, and opened up big, found a kill, put another player extremely low, eliminated a vehicle and a resource, which ended up hindering TK enough that they went down extremely early.
They did. Yeah, it was so massive. That actual play just determined so much in that game there. But like you said, you can't hesitate for even a second in a play
No,
like that.
you have to commit. You're in-game leader for
They
combat.
almost took 2
Your
off
combat.
of TK
They
as well
almost
there.
took 2, but they took a vehicle, which is just as good.
The big thing was, though, they could have taken 2, but they didn't get greedy. They peeled off very quickly, and
they hindered, and they knew
progression's
that they
good.
did enough. They knew they did enough there to at least net themselves some points, most likely get a team eliminated before they go out, and they went ahead and moved on.
Now, we talked a lot about Flamehopper, obviously, this total MVP play, but Pineapples tried to go for that same strategy as well. I expect to see more of that, though. When you do get to the point where there's only one player left up for your squad, you have to try to play for that placement, try to get into the gas. Now, how exactly, with the way that these new dynamic gas works, how hard is it to play the gas?
It's extremely hard. Especially if you've been playing the gas from the beginning. If you're trying to come in late out of the gas, which we're not seeing happen a lot in 5s. We see it happen more in solos. But gas is brutal in those final rings. It's 3.3 damage per second. It is really hard to – you can't really effectively out-heal it. You can kind of stem it a little bit and kind of stabilize and slow it down, but you can't actually just sit there and out-heal those final circles. You are going to go down.
Yeah, now that we've had a chance to talk about it a little bit, let's see what the outcome actually was. We have to look at the results from this first game of our 3 games of the grand final for team play. And as we can see, Impact Gaming on top. They managed to do it with their full squad at the end there. Then the teams right after, they both ended with 1 player each. Hale obviously had MiG left standing, and Counterlogic Gaming had Flamehopper inside of the backseat of the car. Very big plays from both of those team members, and I'm sure their entire squad's definitely clapping them up right now because that was absolutely huge. Echo Fox, who came out guns blazing yesterday, winning both of their qualifying matches. They're going to be all the way at 10th place. And TK, 12th place finish. We talk about that aggressive play that Epsilon took into them. Look where they end up after being on the brunt end of that assault.
Yeah, absolutely. I expect Echo Fox and Team Caliber to both try and maybe switch a little bit more to the outside the way that they were playing yesterday. It was really interesting to see both of those teams end up in a middle situation as early as they did. I expect them to definitely try and go to more of that outside gameplay for Game 2, regardless of the safe zone, unless it's a city. And we did have actually 3 players lead kills so far. So we have 3 people in contention for that big prize or bounty.
Yeah, and I just want to talk about that for a second too. So when you actually do look at the scoreboard here, you see 185K points for Impact Gaming. 175K of those points are going to be based off of that placement. So the way that we are actually scoring these teams here today, we have the 3 games. This was the first one. You get points for placement, then 1,000 points for each kill. Whoever has the highest total points at the end of the 3 games will be the victor. Top 5 teams going to be taking home prize money, but there is also a bounties reward. So whoever has the highest kills going to go home with $3,000, and obviously every kill here today going to be worth $100. So who are those 3 players who are leading the kills right now?
So right now we've got 3 players from 3 entirely different teams. We have Triv off of Impact with 4, Chipsy with 4 from LG. We also have Aqua from World's Best, who also has 4 kills. So all of these guys going in are that's a good number of kills. That's a good number of kills in a solo. That's definitely a good number of kills going in here.
Triv slaying out. That's 40% of the kills from his team, and his team came in first place there. And usually when in teams, you're going to see that first place team having the most kills on the board. Triv being able to pick up 40% of that. Very impressive. If he can keep this up, he's going to be going home with a very big purse.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hey, you guys take down the big one, and one of you gets to take home an extra 3,000 bonus plus 100 per kill. I mean, Triv, I don't think anybody's going to complain about having extra money. I haven't found anybody that does it yet.
I did math, by the way.
You did math?
That's pretty sweet.
Good job.
Someone tweeted at me yesterday, and they were like, somebody, please get this man a calculator. I don't have it up here. I use my fingers. So that was 40% kills.
You know, like smartphones come with them built in now, right?
Yeah, and I don't like technology, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Triv looking really good here. Now, when we get into the next game, I think the biggest factor that we're going to be looking at is where exactly is this first safe zone going to fall. I mean,
it dictates everything.
Yeah, and this one was so crazy. We saw this in the grand finals yesterday for solos. We had one of the oddest rings that we have seen so far, really being in that southwestern portion of the map, half of it not even playable. We're going to have to see where this next one does fall. Are there any teams that you think really will? I'm predicting we're going to have a city finish next time around.
Okay.
I just have a feeling. I feel it in my bones right now. We're going to have a city finish.
Okay.
Maybe even in PV.
Maybe even
PV.
Still waiting for it.
If we do have something like a city finish, are there any teams that are really favored in that particular outcome?
I don't know if there's necessarily teams that are favored in that. It's definitely going to give an advantage to maybe the team that gets that city to start looting and able to get the high ground and find those really key positions. Key positions in cities are very, very distinct. You have people that can do power plays from rooftops, or you end up with people that are in buildings that have no visibility. Rooftop is definitely a much stronger position, especially in places like Ranchito, where some of the rooftops are so high up that you cannot throw throwables up. Sometimes low roofs and things like that, teams will get underneath you, and then they'll walk out the front door and start lobbing throwables up, which puts you in a bad position, and they'll leave somebody on the staircase in case you try to get away from those and come in and shotgun you as you come into the building. A lot of Ranchito is very, very vertical. We're talking some of the staircases you've got to walk up are 15, 20 flights of stairs. You cannot throw a nade or Molotov that far. So Ranchito is one of those rough ones for players. But again, we end up with shotguns being a big thing within those safe zones, and there are players that are just better with shotguns. There's guys that are just known for their close range shotties. So there's definitely some teams that have players like that could have an advantage, but most of them just want to go to the roof and rifle people down.
I will say, though, one of the best parts about having those city finishes is getting to see the peak fire plays and also getting to see the shotguns get busted out. A lot of fun to watch, but as you can hear, very different styles of play, very different finishes, and that's why the most important thing for these players when they are in a series of 3 games for the grand final with a combined score determining their fate on that leaderboard, most important thing is going to be consistency. They are looking for consistency across these games. You know, if you get in 4th place and slay out really hard in every single game, you could very easily be a top 2 team. It all depends on how things pan out over all 3 games. So we do see the first place team very far ahead, 175K points plus an additional.
That bonus for winning is big every time.
And then they slayed out the hardest. Triv obviously getting a lot of those kills, 4 of those kills, and they got 10 in total.
If you play that right, and we saw with Echo Fox and Team Caliber yesterday, if you play it right and you're that team that gets to come in and work down teams that are down men and behind in fights and already hurt and already under pressure and not quite all there because they're worried about other things and they're having to think about more when you come in full health, you're just in such a great position to take down the match and get a lot of kills. When you can come in and clean up two teams that are just half health, even if it's 4 players on each team, that's 8,000 points plus $800.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about all these things that they have to adapt to, I think going into each game, we have to look at which team's going to be able to adapt and employ different strategies based on the scenarios that they're thrusted in.
Yeah.
It's just a huge thing. And we can try to predict what the strategies will look like when we get in the game, but the players can't even do that. It's not like they're sitting back there right now going, okay, now that we are going into game number 2 of this 3-game series, we want to play X way. It all kind of comes down to them parachuting, seeing where that first safe zone is, where they land, and that is one of the reasons that it is so difficult to be a professional H1Z1 player. It's that skill of you have those butterflies, all of a sudden you are plummeting down, and then you have to figure out as a team, how are we going to play this one?
Yeah, this has got to be, to me, emotionally one of the hardest games to be a professional at because there's so much to it. There's so many factors that can affect you in a match that are outside of your control, and it's 100% your ability to adapt to those situations, and sometimes adapting is just not enough. But that's why we are doing a 3-game series and cumulative score so that these guys get enough opportunities to showcase what they've got.
I absolutely love the format here. That is one thing to note for sure, but you talk about it being stressful just based off of the fact, like all of those factors. You don't get to see them until you're already starting the game. It's not like you can mentally prepare, like psych yourself up and get in that position and play off that adrenaline. These guys are absolute madmen. It is such a difficult thing to do to be loaded up.
You've got to be able to turn on immediately. In other games where it's constant respawn and you're just firing.
I mean,
there's lulls, very long lulls. I mean, even
but you get hot hands. You get hot hands, and you don't necessarily have that opportunity. And if you come in cold, someone can pick up a very low-value weapon, get to load it faster than you, sink 2 shots, and send you home. I mean, we see that happen all of the time in solo queue when you don't have that clean break, when the spreads, the skew's a little bit tighter than you expect. Not happening as much in teams because you really do want to stress that man advantage. You don't want to take the fight unless you have to in the early game. But have to note that when we are actually locking in, thinking about what these players are going through, and a lot of them at their first LAN, and we are seeing some of these people who are at their first LAN really show up. And we talk
about yesterday for Team Caliber.
Let's talk about solos for just let's actually talk about solos for just a second here. Yep. I mean, we sent home some champions and we gave out $100,000 in prize money plus the bounty prize.
Yeah, we gave out that bounty prize, and I mean, we had guys that just slayed out yesterday. Prox, though, I want to focus on him for a second because he is here again today playing in this finals also with Team Caliber after they qualified. He had a huge day yesterday. Plays with his team, takes down his stage, then also gets into the solo finals and ends up taking home a trophy.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things.
Some money there. He's already paid. He's just looking for more.
Doubt he had much time to celebrate either last
17.
night. Yeah.
Travels to DreamHack and takes home, I forget what the exact amount was. I think it's something like $12,000.
Oh, we're actually going to get a look at that right now. So
$15,000. I'm sorry. Aladdin got $12,000. So Prox is stepping up big here.
Prox gets $15K plus he gets another
900. 3,900?
Yeah, he gets another. No, I don't think he gets the 3,000, right? Prox does get the 3,000.
Prox gets the 3,000 due to tiebreaker rules. They have an order that they go in to break that tie. They both had the same amount at 9, but I believe it goes game by game. Whoever had the most kills in game 1, if it ties, they go to game 2.
Exactly.
Ties, it goes to game 3.
So it was sweet. It's both Sweet Dreams and Prox. Your number 1 and your number 2 both had the highest kills. So both of them getting $900 for that, and then the additional 3,000 does go to Prox. But we had Prox up on the stage yesterday, 17 years old, first LAN, and just a part of a great organization. Super happy to be here, getting support from his team.
Yeah.
We saw that from all of the guys up on the stage, just kind of being here with a band of brothers. But let's talk about those bounties. Do you think that it's obviously employed here as well for this team play?
Much less effect here.
Do you think that it affects any of the bottom teams or the teams near the top at all? I think the
Game 3 maybe? I don't think right now. Everybody is still in this. Do not count any team in these 12 out yet. All of them are still very much in the game and can still clutch up and take down. You win 2 games back-to-back right now, you're walking home. You're going home with a lot of money. Correction, you're flying first class going home. You're upgrading your plane ticket for tomorrow morning.
Yeah, man. That first class upgrade on the East Coast usually isn't too bad, especially
I haven't experienced it yet. I'll have to.
I've never done it. I've never done it to Vegas. You're in Vegas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably really expensive. Don't do it. You're not.
Vegas is actually really, really cheap to fly in.
Yeah,
so maybe I can.
First class though, you're not winning any money, man.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's how they make up the flight cost. Maybe first class to Vegas is really expensive, and that's why the coach is so cheap.
You're asking me to do math right
I
now?
don't know.
I'm not going to try to figure it out.
But
these players shouldn't have to calculate the math too hard if they do come out on top. Definitely want them to have that opportunity to celebrate as well. First DreamHack for a lot of them, and it is just such a crazy environment to be in. And they get to finish relatively early. I mean, we are very close to crowning a champion here. Just 2 more games left.
I mean, we're close, but we're still only 1/3 of the way there. So we've definitely got a ton of gameplay here. Anybody that didn't necessarily show up that maybe you want to see show up this round? I know that you were kind of rooting for Drassel there. You want to see Luminosity kind of come in.
Luminosity is always an org I like to watch in general. I like to see what they're up to.
They're in a lot of games. You can definitely catch them in all over the place.
It's always fun to get to check out the teams that, when you come to one of these events and you just see, like, Rogue's been everywhere. We've seen LG everywhere. So it's fun to get to see those orgs. But once you get a player up on the stage, you always want to kind of see what they can do. Got to talk to Drazzle. We got to talk to Pineapples. Want to see what they can do in-game. obviously Pineapples being such an important player in the community. He wrote the guide. We've said that throughout the weekend a bunch of times. This is your first time watching H1Z1, or if you're a newer player, kind of watching the pros, trying to figure out what they're doing so you can bring it into your gameplay. A huge way to step up your game is to actually look at that guide that Pineapples created. That was really how I got my feet wet in H1Z1, reading that, and also I get to be next to an expert here. First H1Z1 tournament, getting to cast it with Supersonic. We got to chop it up on Steam quite a bit in the weeks leading up to the tournament, but Pineapple's guide going to be huge. But I really do want to see Drazzle get some shots in. Want to see what LG can pick up this next time around. Got knocked out pretty early. TK, I mean, we already talked about TK. They get 12th place this time around.
Yeah.
They have Prox. This guy came in second place yesterday. This team can obviously go very
and they
far.
crushed yesterday in the one game that we saw.
This
so
TK
we want to see
squad
that come
is
back.
phenomenal. There's no doubt about that. It goes to show just how deep this lineup goes. All 12 of these teams capable of taking a win. I expect TK is not going to come in 12th place when we get back in here.
No.
The main reason that happened was a beautiful play from Epsilon.
Epsilon put them under pressure, and losing a player that early can definitely affect team morale and kind of what you're thinking about. You've got to be able to shake those things off, and that's what I talk about a lot with the emotional context of H1. It's big. You lose a player, he's not coming back. You're down a man the whole game. Going in down a man in any game is always harder playing against the odds. So that can affect your team morale, affect your communication, and you have to figure out how to handle those situations and be able to bounce back.
You talk about team morale. What do you think it's like to see Jerk Chicken die to bombs?
Yeah, that was definitely one. I mean,
Team Caliber, how much does that crush you though?
That is heart wrenching.
There's a thing with the way that Team Caliber sees their first player get sent home, where you just kind of take that deep breath and go, "Wow, that was a beautiful play." You know, they got outplayed there. Epsilon came in and just set that up really well, and there's not much that you can do as TK to necessarily counter it.
I don't even know if it's necessarily outplay as much as they just.
I think that's fair to say.
They had a position that TK could not counter. TK's only option there was to try and drive away, or hop in open field against a team that has a ridge line who can back down, and then you lose visibility of them, and they can start flanking you.
Sometimes
so
you
there was
bopped.
there was nothing
really
there for
happened.
TK to do.
So now when TK does get back in, I imagine that wouldn't be too much of a tax on their morale. I think they're going to be fine when they do get back up in here. I think Echo Fox kind of finds themselves more in that position.
I expect both those teams to bounce back. Echo Fox,
pro teams. I mean, I do as well, but I think it's much harder to bounce back from just an environment.
I've been with these guys from Echo Fox at events since the culmination of their team, the original one at TwitchCon when they first announced them, and these guys have gone up and down, and they've had some low spots that I've never talked to one of them afterwards and had them be disappointed to go to the next one or down. They're very good at going ahead and saying, you know what, we're going to go ahead and we're going to practice, we're going to play harder, and we're going to show up next time. So I expect them to come into the next game just doing exactly what they did yesterday. I expect to see that fire and intensity show up. I expect to see that passive-aggressive play to try and close out the circle the way that Impact did. I expect Team Caliber to probably try and shift off of that too. A lot of guys playing the center of the safe zone, and this was a rough one. In those open areas, though, basically the way that whole, there's little ridges and stuff in there, but the whole area is just kind of a small hill. So you can find areas if you're all the way out on the far edge there and you're laying down, nobody has any visibility, and you can kind of pop up every now and then, check and peek, make sure nobody's around. You could probably still make one of those plays within one of those safe zones. A lot of guys don't think about it, though, because there's literally zero cover around, and it's hard to kind of find those angles. They typically only use them when they're really low and trying to heal and find somewhere to hide out for a second.
And we're going to see a lot of that get employed when we get into the next game. But I want to talk about the orgs just a little bit more, too.
Sure.
I mean, two of the orgs that we're talking about, TK and Echo Fox, it's cool to see both of them. They're very different orgs, too. I mean, TK has been a staple of esports for quite some time. I mean, if you've been around in the esports scene, you watched TK and you've probably cheered for him before. Echo Fox really coming up, though, huge in the H1Z1 scene in particular.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing a ton of moves.
When you think of that org, I mean, very new. I think that org came into conception around the time I entered esports. So it's around maybe a year and a half now.
Year and a half, 2 years. They're definitely a newer org.
They're all over the place very quickly, but H1Z1 really seems to be one of the homes for this org. And when you talk about how that team formed as well, they wanted slayers. That's
Yeah.
how they actually found their team. So when you watch Echo Fox play, they'll make these aggressive plays. We talked about Mini yesterday, and when they actually did qualify in those 2 qualifier matches for their group, Mini just being like, my life is such a good resource. We are going to invest it right now. I'm going to die. I'm going to swoop in for the flank. Maybe I get the Hail Mary and pick up the kill. Either way, I'm going to create space on the map, and I'm going to alleviate pressure from the bulk of the team. Then we can come in, do what we do. We have the shots. We'll slay them out, and we'll get the win.
And they had 10K all the way. Actually, he laid down at one point and started taking damage from the gas. I mean, he was literally at the widest possible angle there. So, yeah, Echo Fox definitely a team that'll show up. And being newer, I mean, as you're talking about them there for a second, I mean, they're definitely somebody that's a big supporter of the scene. Echo Fox being the first pro team that actually came into H1Z1 and kind of kicked things off or lit the powder keg, as we say, and then we saw a lot of teams kind of come in after that. But, I mean, they're doing huge things all over the place. They've definitely grown exponentially. They just had a big weekend at EVO.
I mean, H1Z1 has just some of the best orgs in esports, period. I mean, when we start to actually
a lot of player-centered orgs that are very supportive of scenes rather than
I mean, we have orgs that create content, like give back to the community, and it is really exciting to see them. And the 2 that we've been highlighting a lot right now, they're not the only 2 orgs that are doing that. I mean,
the majority of these orgs that we're talking about do it. It's a great community.
We can run off the list, and then we have some of these more boutique orgs as well. But the nice thing about those is they have this strong identity that's really built around their original roster, and that is a beautiful thing to see as well. So exciting to see that mix of orgs, of teams, of personalities in the scene, and excited to see what these players can do in this second game of this 3-game series. To go back to TK and Echo Fox, though, I think both of them had relatively disappointing placements in this first game, and I don't think that is going to be repeated. I think TK in particular had that really tough play from Epsilon. I think they're going to jump up quite a bit, and I think Echo Fox, it's like both of those came back to those simple things early in the game, giving them a man disadvantage, and we can see how big a man disadvantage is going to be. So let's bring it back to Flamehopper and Mig, these 2 players getting to play their life, and you just see when you are in that corner, when there's nothing to do, if you can play for placement well, you get to jump up to 2nd or 3rd for your team. The amount of prize money that opens you up to, like Flamehopper, just absolute all-star. They need to be buying him the first round of drinks. I mean, they need to take him out.
They had to do it to fight for the crown. They need to do it again
right around the corner. I mean, you really need to clap up that player because he played out of his mind, played for his life, and that was exactly what he needed to do. You don't need to be an all-star. Sometimes you just need to sit in the back of the police car.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to sit back and go ahead and watch it happen.
That's honestly something I've been trying to avoid my entire life, but Flamehopper going to be able to do it here and get some money in doing it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, he did extremely well there. I expect also, though, going into this next game, seeing some of these teams try to play to the outside edge, as we said, Echo Fox, Team Caliber, I expect one of these games eventually, because everybody played the center again for the most part.
True.
It was kind of a safe zone where you had to, but there was still some openings in maybe that 2nd or 3rd circle that may have put some guys into better positions to come in and would have altered the entire course of that game. I expect to start seeing by the 2nd or 3rd game, especially some of these teams that may not be in first place contention yet, definitely start taking that route and trying to go more passive. I expect some of these teams that tend to be that center safe zone, when they see it's not working, start to adjust and adapt and try and shift to the outside and at least net themselves, at a minimum, get some kills for your team and take some money home.
You just bring up such a huge point here, Supersonic. We started to talk about where the meta actually is right now, and we really saw it yesterday. I think yesterday is when we got our eyes on it the most, and that idea is of our team, where are teams playing right now, and a lot of it has been in the center. And the biggest question I wanted to ask Drazzle when he was up on stage, but you don't want to reveal any team strategy. It's like, are you guys planning to play towards the middle of the safe zone? Are you going to play the outskirts of the map? It seemed like the teams that get on the outside of the ring have had a higher percentage win rate.
It is absolutely shown, at least here at the LAN this weekend, that the players that play the outside and can find a spot where maybe there's a couple ridge lines, maybe some trees, you want to basically set up a line, draw a line from the edge of the circle all the way to the center of the circle, and find the line that has the most possible, maybe rocks, small trees, something that as the gas comes in that you can continue to bounce from cover to cover. And the guys that are doing that are are making it much further into these matches than the guys that are choosing to try and go to the first spot and contest that safe zone the whole time. That best spot, the problem with it is, we talked about it yesterday. Sometimes you got to make a play to take a position. There is a strong position. Getting there early gives you the most real estate to try and take over. But once you do, if you are that center spot and you do have that best spot, eventually a team is going to come in to contest you. You are going to be forced into a fight. If you are on the outside and able to kind of slowly work your way in and avoid it, there's a lot less chance of you having to take combat earlier in the game.
And you can also hear all of the factors that you have to be thinking about in those moments. And the meta is a very fragile thing as well. You can say that with the meta, teams are playing towards the center, and the teams that are playing on the outside are winning more. But if all of the teams play the outside, maybe the teams who are in the center would be it's so complicated to figure it out on the fly, and you don't want to be trying necessarily. You don't necessarily want to be trying new things when you are live in the tournament, on land, playing for the prize money. So a lot of these strategies that do get broken out are going to be things that were determined in that scrim environment. So all of these players have been playing in a scrim environment before they actually jumped on. And I know one of the things you were talking about is actually trying to figure out which of these teams had the highest win rates, who had the most wins inside of that scrim environment. And that was an interesting thing to check out.
That was actually Team Soar and Team Rogue that had the most wins within that scrim environment, and both of them had rough safe zones to deal with yesterday and ended up bubbling out. So neither one of them actually making it in. So that, again, I mean, that's H1. And you were talking about if we don't play the center of the safe zone, how much that shifts. As soon as you shift everybody to the outside, now it's 100% pinch. You're always getting pinched until you get – what ends up happening is in the circle, you have two teams, let's say they start at the top. These guys don't shoot at each other, and they both go this way. Now, anybody going this direction is all getting pinched. And that gives those guys that tends to be the best side of that circle because it just opens up, and now you have retreat space.
Yeah, I mean, you also talk about some of the teams having the highest amount of wins in the scrim environment, not making it all the way to the top 12. LAN, it is a crazy beast. It is not an easy thing to traverse at all, and those teams are incredible. I mean, some of the members of those teams coming in, I mean, look, like Rogue, for example, sending some players right to the top. I mean, Sweet Dreams in that solo queue going to be taking home the King's share of that prize money, but the team not necessarily going to be here today. But the nice thing to see from that squad was how happy they were to see their teammate come in first place in solos. It's almost like they just got the whole win here.
Yeah, I mean, at one point,
I'm sure they would have loved to be in the finals.
At one point, T-Hump and Boxy and all of them were yelling so much. You were talking, and I couldn't even really hear what was going on. They were loud enough that I could actually hear what they were saying. Typically, everything kind of sounds like the teacher. I'm trying to think of the show. The womp womp. That's what everything sounds like to me. I could hear them clear as day. So it's great to see. But it might have been. Yeah, I think it's Charlie Brown.
The best part is T-Hump should honestly be a caster. That guy, his voice rings clear as day. Yeah, that's a scary idea. I take it back.
Oh, T-Hump. I don't know if T-Hump's quite the caster side.
I've never heard someone's voice cut through like that, though.
He can project. He can absolutely project his voice.
Yeah, no, it was crazy, and he was one of those guys to freak out. Now, as you can see, we're looking at those results from Game 1 as well. When we get to Game 2, the scores are going to be added together. We highlighted that Impact Gaming came out with that impressive finish on top, and they were able to maintain their man advantage throughout the entirety of that game. Hale and Counter Logic Gaming managed to get it just by the skin of their teeth. Only having 2 men up at the end. World's Best Gaming, they looked really good. We actually didn't get to talk about World's Best Gaming too much in our post-game analysis.
To Counter Logic.
They're so close. I mean, that is just a couple of kills away. There's 7 kills off, a good placement off. World's Best Gaming looked really good. I mean, obviously they did a lot of work in solos with Granny yesterday. He got first place in that second game. What did they do so well to find themselves in this 4th place position?
World Best was actually playing it fairly slow. They didn't take too many engagements. They didn't put themselves at risk. They only fired if somebody came close enough that they could kind of edge them off.
And they had good positioning, too. I feel like positioning was really key for this team. They got that very early on. I'm trying to remember back. Who was the team who actually got that initial setup on the island in the middle of the lake? because that was one of the talking points where we were like, this is just such a high-risk play. We didn't see the safe zone collapse on it, so it ends up not being that great, but they had to move through that lake. And I'm trying to remember if they
There's
got
still a
punished for it
much
or
better
not.
safe zone than we had yesterday on the south side. I mean, the south side was absolutely brutal to those teams. Traversing that when teams are set up, going south across the water is a much more dangerous play than going north. Going north has more of a ridge line, where the south side doesn't have a ridge line along the water. It kind of comes in almost like a beach, kind of a soft curve. On the other side, going north, you at least have a hard ridge. So if you get there, you have a bit of cover, can heal up, and then work your way in, which we saw it play out better. We didn't see teams getting eliminated trying to cross that water, kind of like Rogue did yesterday, where they got eaten up coming across and then forced into a bad spot, had to hop out of the car. We didn't really see that play out that way, so the island worked more favorably today than it did yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, everyone got chewed up by bullets yesterday when they were trying to adapt to that safe zone. But we have seen in the past couple of days some safe zones that these teams really aren't too able to, it's hard to adapt to. They haven't had that much practice inside of these safe zones. It's going to be really interesting as we progress through this entire Elite Series to see how these teams actually do learn to play them, because this isn't the only stop for H1Z1. We're going to be back in DreamHack Winter, which is all the way over in Sweden. So a lot of the EU players are going to have the easier commute that time around.
Is it less humid there, a little less muggy?
I think the weather's supposed to be beautiful there. I've only seen pictures of Sweden. I think the closest I've been to it is...
I love the architecture and everything here in Atlanta, but
Wait,
I typically deal with humidity well, man. It's been killing me this weekend.
Have I been to Sweden? I may have been to Sweden.
You don't know if you've been to Sweden?
Yeah, wait.
Math, geography? Geography, the other hard one?
Where's Zurich? Is Zurich in Sweden?
Zurich?
Is Zurich in Sweden?
Germany?
I don't know. Is somebody tweeting me really quick? Where is Zurich in Sweden? Let me turn my phone.
Anybody that can hear us on production, can you please tell us where Zurich is?
I've been to Zurich. It was actually a really crazy story, and it was one of the times I saw Steve Aoki play, because my buddy opened for him at
I know that guy.
show. Yeah, so he's obviously involved in Rogue. Maybe we'll all get to go there if Zurich is in Sweden, but I have absolutely no idea. It was kind of a random trip. But hey, if it is, that place is great.
It'd be interesting to see what teams also, though, with Sweden, who makes it over there, and how many more EU orgs come into the game right now.
Yeah, so I mean, we do see some of these EU teams. We talked about jet lag being a factor for them potentially.
Doesn't seem to be didn't affect Echo Fox yesterday. They have a lot of EU guys.
I think the thing is that's nice about how everything did play out was teams just had enough time to adapt to their environment.
Yeah, it's actually an interesting thing now that I think about it. So Echo Fox is NA-based org. They have 2 NA players.
That's right. Zurich's in
4.
Switzerland. Zurich's in Switzerland.
So
we
found
it. So much.
We appreciate that.
I knew it. I knew it wasn't Sweden, but I knew it started with an S, and it was
still an SW. I mean, that's close, right?
The trip was not. Yeah, I mean, it was a mess, but. Okay, well, Switzerland's beautiful. We should have a DreamHack there as well. But Sweden kind of being what, I mean, we wouldn't be in Atlanta if it wasn't for DreamHacks in Sweden. So it is really cool.
Yeah, that's kind of the starting point, right?
So to get to have H1Z1 there is going to be incredible. Yeah, now production's just making fun of me. Thanks, guys. Just one big happy family here over at the H1Z1 booth. But really excited, though, to see these European teams kind of have that home field advantage. It's going to be a lot of fun to see that. And also, it's going to be exciting for the NA players to start to get to travel for these games. I mean, we talked to Prox yesterday.
I mean, some of these guys have probably never been out of the country ever. So this is going to open up the doors for some of these guys to get to start seeing the world. You're going to get to go to other countries to play video games.
I mean, that's been the crazy part. I mean, I've been involved in esports for just a little bit over a year now, and I had probably left the country twice randomly in my entire life. And
now you're going all the time.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I haven't been home in 2 months. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy all the places that you get to see because of esports, and to see these players for the first time get to go there. Actually, one of the things that you do see with the NA players a lot of the time when they do get to their first land in Europe is a lot of distractions. So that might be something to
I heard
look
that
at.
that can be a problem at DreamHack Sweden just because of how big it is. The crowd sizes are huge, the roar. So we'll see if that ends up having an effect when we do get there. But we are going to be going into Game 2 here. So let's get back in and see how this one's going to shake out. And it looks like it is definitely going to be West. I'm not calling North or South because I cannot do that anymore. I got my one for the weekend out of the way. The entire west side of this map is absolutely open for the taking. We do not see anybody floating that side. All of Harris, all of the whole Salty Tier Lake, all of those spots are not going to be looted. We are going to have Europe's Last Hope and LG both taking Ranchito, so we'll see if they get into an early engagement or decide to disengage. I expect the disengage to happen, and CLG will most likely rotate north to take out Misty Peak Reservoir. There's a lot of cars, a lot of loot up there, and there's also the spot directly north of Ranchito here. There's a residential up there that has a lot of loot and vehicle spawns as well, so ton of loot in this northeast corner for these players to go after. We'll see who gets that residential first. Echo Fox may beat them to it depending on what the safe zone dictates.
And TK really gets to spread out there near Runamuck Lake. That's going to be nice for them. They should be able to get kitted up relatively quickly, but most likely they will have a trek ahead of them depending on where this first ring does get set up. And once we see that, we will be able to determine who has the most favorable positioning on this map. But jumping on board with Rizar, as you can see him lootating here.
Yeah, he's still down the floor. He's still looting inside there. Some of these guys will run to the rooftops though. Typically, let's say Rizar was the most looted on the team and he's good to go. They'll send him to a roof to go ahead and watch out for the team and play scout, and the other players will start to loot some of maybe the minor things that he doesn't have enough of. Maybe grab some extra med kits, some extra bandages, scrappable items for armors, and they'll kit that player up.
And now on board with Memento, one of the first players we're going to get to jump on board with. And really quick, we're going to screech over to Adrian from LG. LG not having that highest placement, but being one of those teams who did qualify through the actual CW series. So they were one of those 5 teams that didn't have to go through these qualifying matches. We're going to have to see what they can do here in this second game. Only 2 left. Placement of this is going to get us very close to determining who our champion is going to be and who that $150,000 will go to. And what do you think of this kit?
I mean, they're doing fairly well. We need some helmets for JP. He's looking a little slim. That boonie hat isn't going to save you from a bullet. But talking about teams that maybe that were pre-qualified, like Luminosity and World's Best, and these guys that have already shown that they can show up on a LAN as a team and take down games. It's interesting to watch to see if maybe they can do it again and start being that team at the beginning of this esports journey into H1. Who's most consistent?
Exactly, and consistency, it's one of those things that does take multiple LANs to really sort out, but it's just undeniable how big the advantage these teams had going in.
Or disadvantage because they didn't get enough games in.
We talked about the potential of the disadvantage, but the advantages are there as well. I mean, getting to guarantee themselves.
Guaranteed to being able to play for the money is huge.
Yeah, I mean, you only have to beat half of the teams to guaranteed win some money, right?
Ooh.
The top 5 are going to be getting money there. Wow, this is going to be another one of those rings that's very hard to play.
This is the one that's going to be – this is a brutal safe zone. Again, we saw it we saw it yesterday. This one's actually a little bit farther south and a little bit further east here, and we're going to probably pull down right to about where Apex Shay's currently at in that bottom corner. So Epsilon with position to be able to go possibly off map a little bit, a lot of tree covered, a lot of hills and mountainous area to basically fortify yourself in. But this is really interesting. I would have expected this to go farther north just based on that whole north side of that map is just covered right now. We've got LG, Obey, CLG, Echo Fox, GS, all much further up than that. So surprised a little bit to see the safe zone go to the south again.
I really think some of those northern teams on their way down too might have to throw some punches.
How does this affect the morale though, seeing that you just went through a brutal safe zone, you're praying to get a better one, and you see almost the same safe zone? I mean,
it's one of those factors that everyone on the map has to deal with. We expect these players to be able to play it cool. I want to jump back really quick and finish the idea of the advantages that you do get being one of the pre-qualified teams. The major thing, obviously you have that advantage of getting to play for the money right away. Awesome. Yeah. Sweet. But to be one of those pre-qualified teams, that means you've already played a LAN before. So some of these teams haven't actually gotten to play the LAN before at all. So knowing that these teams have that is going to be a big one. Now, looking back at the game, looking back at the map, I think all of those teams in the South have a favorable position here. TK gets to free loot up around Runamuck, and they're going to be able to slide into the outer portions of the ring.
Yeah, they'll be able to get out there. We're going to hop on board with Hale here, who did make it down to that end spot, ended up taking down second as Mig eliminated Flamehopper before he was absolutely swarmed by Impact Gaming. We'll see if they can maybe pull a good game out again.
Yeah, they want a repeat performance for the most part, but I think that they would hope if they come down to second, they're going to have more than just a Mig up this time around.
Mig would love to have some friends with him when it gets down to that part.
Hey, but Mig came up so huge, obviously able to play for his life well, but he was the one who spotted Flamehopper.
How does he spot Flamehopper before the other 4 that are around the car spot Flamehopper? It had to have been an angle.
They were standing on top of Flamehopper. They may have even thrown the smokes that protected Flamehopper.
Clearly, bounties didn't matter to Flamehopper either. He was only worried about position because he could have thrown shots. He could have, if he wanted to, eliminated 1 or 2 of those IG guys before they figured out where the shots were coming from.
I mean, the major thing is, though, like IG trying to collapse on Mig, and if they did in time, Flamehopper easily could have found that second place. So he's going to be the Hale just having a clear MVP that time around. And that is Flamehopper again. That time he's going to be in the front of the car, actually moving it around. And he is still trying to get his full kit going. Seeing some decent loot around this overturned
nice
car.
Goggles.
Yeah, they are pretty sweet. But as you can see, his team off a little bit behind him. He's kind of being that runner, moving slightly away.
Yeah, he's definitely just going up, getting looted a little bit. They should be fairly safe over here, pretty much alone. And that first crate is going to come down onto the map, and we'll see if they go by and give us a little bit of what's in there. And it is a double Lammy to start this one, so we'll see if anybody comes through, or if maybe Echo Fox comes through and grabs it again, can get out of the way of the bombs.
Yeah, now we saw how much of a trouble that air crate can be. I mean, we really have expect Jerk Chicken not to be going for it this time around.
Yeah, I don't think Echo Fox is anywhere in position to come down and be the ones to contest for this. I don't see them coming down, but we'll see if anybody decides to go for it. And again, we have it landing in open field, which is now you have to figure out, do I smoke off? Do I have enough space that I can just go ahead and grab it and not waste any of my resources? We'll see who decides to go for it or if it just gets left alone. But the majority of these teams have been going for them. They have been showing how worth it is when you get them. It's a risk, and you sometimes get eliminated, but when you get it, you get away clean. It is a big pickup.
Now we're going to jump on board with ELH. We got just about everyone inside of this Jeep. Where do you think they're trying to cruise over to right now?
I'm not quite sure. So ELH has a ton of spots that they can go to. We're talking about the first circle. Until this first one closes in, no team is necessarily set in their positioning unless they are already stopped moving. While they're in their car, they're basically just scouting right now, trying to figure out where it is they could go. I would love to see a team possibly decide to take the high ground if they've got a Jeep, maybe drive on the edge of the map since it is within the safe zone and kind of get high ground and be able to get some more visibility and watch everything play out in front of them.
Yeah, and we did get to see Flitch drop a couple of shots there. Looked like it wasn't necessary.
WBG and TK down there in the south could cause some problems for Denial if Denial might be forced to play the center of the safe zone here.
And as you can see, this safe zone, we mentioned it a little bit earlier on, a solid portion of it going to be in the unplayable areas of the map. But also, you should check out that northern portion. Look at these two teams. I mean, we got Fox on a potential collision, of course, and LG still inside of Ranchito.
Yeah, Fox playing that northwest corner that they were doing when the safe zones were in the north side of the map. We'll see if coming in from that northwest corner on another game works out as well as it did for them yesterday. They did it twice yesterday, coming northwest to southeast and just mopped up. Game one went a little rough for them. They definitely want to come in big here, but LG could cause some issues for them. If LG leaving that late is going to assume that teams are most likely playing that right side of the map, and you might see them decide to go west a little bit in the safe zone, which could put them right on top of Echo Fox.
We are on board with Prox right now. This 17-year-old has played like an absolute rock star in both solos and teams, and we can see TK right now. This is one of these newer strategies that's really started to evolve. Look at all the ATVs that they have.
It's something that we saw Denial do for the first time in Fight for the Crown.
Exactly.
And it's become much more prevalent to see players using ATVs where they typically didn't. you'd sometimes see one, maybe a Jeep and an ATV, and the ATV kind of scouts it out. But now we're starting to see teams opt to just have them because you put much less risk of losing multiple players. Shooting at a Jeep is a lot easier to do. Hitting a single person in that small of a ride is harder to hit. You don't lose resources as quick. Plus, you have more resources to expend.
Fringe scenario that illustrates that very well too. Imagine if Jerk Chicken had a teammate in that car to pick up the additional Lammy, the potential second Lammy at a quicker rate.
Could have saved him.
Well, the whole thing is there. If he has that second player inside of the car,
you don't want to risk two players, though. It's such a hard decision to make. And those are the little decisions that we talk about being the separation of consistency.
Yeah, and the ATV basically gives you that. It gives you that breakup in players in the more usual scenarios.
Yeah.
So that is going to just illustrate how effective they are. And we can see LG, all of them choking on the gas a little bit there.
Yeah, they'll be all right, though. I mean, this is definitely as much as your gun skill matters, and we clearly know all these guys can shoot. It's how they got here. It's how they got on teams. This game has a chess element to it where it is an outthink and see moves ahead of people. Be 3 steps ahead and knowing where you're going to be in 2 circles if a circle goes here, what is my play? If the circle pulls here, what is my play? Have those conversations and be able to do that quickly. You need to be able to have that information ready and be ready to go on a moment's notice.
Yeah, and it's undeniable that those early portions of the game are that chess battle. And then I think most people assume that it's really going to be the end of the game when the shots do come alive and when the gun skill is the most important. But you can't overlook how important the chess elements really are in the later portion of the game as well. I mean, those chess elements are going to be really important. We saw them from Mini yesterday, but this is really important. This is the meta that we were talking about, these teams collapsing into the center of the safe zone. Whoever gets the setup in Radio Tower here in Vishan's Peak is going to be in a good area, and it looks like TK could take that almost for free, get some really good lines on ELH and IG. Echo Fox, though, finds themselves currently in a strong position.
Yeah, Echo Fox coming down. They're in a good position, but as we can see, LG is choosing for the absolute last moment rotation, and they're going to be coming down along that water line, possibly up behind Echo Fox. Echo Fox most likely wants to go ahead and shift more to the east and into the mountains on the edge of the map.
Yeah, that seems to be the line of play that would be most favorable. With this nice bird's eye view, we can actually see how spread out these teams are. CLG seems to be right in the middle of it, having some decent cover with this ridge and also with the trees.
Completely open to the other side if a team decides to move in for those other trees, though, and it puts them at risk. That's why these centers of the safe zones are so hard to cover if it's not a city finish or buildings. You have so many open lines, and if somebody is able to be on opposite ends or even at a 90-degree angle from you, all of your trees and rock cover become null and void. They no longer function. So the center of the safe zone, especially in fights where these guys are taking wider angles, you can get surrounded a full 360 degrees and just not be able to play out of it.
Exactly. You don't want to have to protect every side. You really want to get yourself pitted in a nice area where you're protecting yourself from 2-3 sides. And in CLG's current position, they may need to scout out a new area. We do see that they have the vehicles to do just that. They start to rotate. It seems they're going to slightly rotate at the moment. TK's positioning just seems phenomenal to me. World's Best Gaming also having that phenomenal positioning. But if these two teams meet a little bit early, they very quickly could take the advantages away from each other. All of the other teams being much more clumped up towards the center of that safe zone.
This is big for TK and World Best. Both of those teams can come in through Veshin's Peak, which still has a ton of tree cover, ridges, everything that you want is all available to them because everybody's playing the center and worried that people are already there. Now, those teams will most likely run into each other, and if one of them can go ahead and either injure one enough that they leave or go ahead and wipe one out and not drop players, they are going to put themselves in prime real estate to take down this second game.
I think TK and World's Best Gaming, the collision between the two of them is going to be the most important thing in the match. If they end up not meeting or if they move away from each other, those two teams are going to just be able to sit on the peripheral of the safe zone for the remainder of the game and just slowly pick away at the other teams. If they do meet and weaken each other quite a lot, they will become much less important as threats on the map. But now looking at this supply crate plummeting down, we do see Denial is relatively close to it, and also Echo Fox. Echo Fox, though, with a tough run so far in this series with these supply crates, may determine that it is not worth going for it. Pineapples seems to be rotating slightly closer to it, moving in that circle, going to keep his eyes on it. Sloth in tow. They can either go for that play of trying to make sure there aren't any other players going for it, but because of this good tree cover that they do get, I think this is going to be an easy take. Smokes coming out.
No shots coming into them yet. That is a great sign for them. Piney actually now starting to take shots, but as you see, he hears the side that the shots are coming from and places the car in front so that even if they fire into the smoke, it puts them in a great position to protect Sloth. You're not going to drop a player. You're going to sacrifice a little bit of a car, which again is a resource, but they're using it in a situation and sacrificing a little bit of it to get a big pickup, picking up 2 Lammies. So both Sloth and Piney now with 2-hit Lammies on.
Yeah, and you could kind of see by how they looted it, that was a clear indication of that second Lammy being inside of the crate. We saw one hop out, hop back in, the other one hops in, grab the Lammy that was dropped onto the ground. Going to be a huge resource moving into the game. That's going to be big for them, especially in the later portions of the fight, but their positioning still is dangerous. Look at how many teams they are surrounded by. A pinch could come in. Second, another ring going to be coming in, and once again, TK, World's Best Gaming, find themselves in prime real estate.
TK, best position on the map currently. Echo Fox, possibly with the second, as long as they don't have to take an engagement. They're a little bit closer to danger. But TK being able to go up and take this down, where we saw STDX Set to Destroy played that yesterday but got forced out of it. Now this time, they're going to have cover going down the hill. It's not an open hill. It's got trees on it. So they can kind of come in and just pinch players out and force them into other teams and out into the open. TK, I think, has the best position going into this next circle.
I definitely agree with you, Supersonic. Shots starting to ring out, though, from Hale. Last time we saw them get that second place all off the back of Mig, staying alive, playing his life efficiently. The TK can easily move through the peaks depending on where the later safe zones do come in. I think Obey also finds themselves in a good position, but they will bump into TK if they maybe try to move up towards Radio Tower. But it seems like that would be their best move. Try to put a little bit of space between themselves and the other teams. Pineapple's still playing on the fringes, not quite in the cover that we see the rest of his team in. They are somewhat close to Hale at this point, but don't think any major fight's going to break out just yet. But as you can see, Denial isn't only near Hale. CLG is going to be on their flank.
Yeah, World Best actually has, as long as they don't go up, I think that they might actually have maybe second or third. They might have a better position than Echo Fox, but Echo Fox with some great ridges here. This is exactly the type of play that they were doing yesterday that worked so well for them. They're on the outside edge of the map with a lot of hill coverage where people cannot see their vehicles, they cannot see them. They have all the visibility because it is a third-person game by nature. They can see the entire field of battle until you get all the way to the other side. They are gaining a lot of information on the other teams. World Best, when we get to see them the next time, we'll check it out. But down along that south side, and we are down here with them now, they have a very similar one, but they are looking up more hill. There's a little bit more hill coverage. They have a little bit less visibility. They may have seen TK at some point because they didn't decide to take the Veshine's Peak play, or they're just making the assumption that somebody's already up there. But this far south area is extremely open to them, and they have very little threats coming towards them. So all that trees down there along the south side, and you see along the water on that right side, it's unoccupied terrain at the moment. So they can actually sweep in through that southeast corner and try and make a play. So right now, TK, WBG, and Echo Fox definitely with those prime spots.
Yeah, they're going to be the three forces on this map that can really determine the tide throughout the entirety of this game. And I think that this pans out even better for TK than it does for World's Best Gaming, that the fact that this engagement didn't go down. World's Best Gaming can find themselves a more optimal position here, but the height that TK has is going to be massive. An interesting thing to note, though, Echo Fox didn't have, like TK and World's Best Gaming, they've been in a great position all game long. We saw as they rotated over, we knew that they were going to get prime positions on the map, and it looks like TK is just going to be able to move further and further, eventually to be at that radio tower position.
It's going to be bad for Obey because of TK.
Yeah, it will be bad for Obey. I mean, there we go. This means that they are not going, TK not going to be able to stay up in the peaks. Maybe this ends up working out for Obey if they do see the collapse coming in.
TK needs to go now, right now. Do not wait for the gas. They should start rotating down into Obey immediately.
That is a huge thing that needs to happen, and if they don't do it, they could get punished. Echo Fox, though, didn't have a great positioning earlier on, and they have managed to cut out a good one for themselves. But when this rain does come in, it may be difficult, but that when you talk about them having a similar position to they did when they actually won the game and they were able to get these crucial pinches in, they've managed to chart a path to a similar scenario in this game. It's just their play style, and we already know it is a winning play style.
And we saw them play a different play style in the last game, and we saw what happened. They got punished for it. And there was a ton of open real estate in that last game that could have been taken, but everybody's making assumptions that players are already there. The majority of the time, we have seen that is not the case. There is a lot of real estate that you can make plays out of in the earlier game, and you need to be able to make those plays and figure that out. Maybe they're just not scouting enough, or it's the angles that they're at. Maybe there's trees in the way, but I feel like these guys aren't operating quite on enough information when picking their positions.
Yeah, the information is crucial. I mean, if you don't go in with that, you go in half-cocked, and you ultimately get pinched, you get cut down. As we can see, Epsilon starting to cut in between CBK Flame and Howie. Flame taking about one shot to the flesh. We can't see that fight play out, but it seems like he has disengaged.
Yeah, he's just scouting, and Epsilon was going to throw a couple love taps at him and let him know that they're there. So Flame will go right back to his team, though.
He should be fine to do just that. Another crate. This one seems like it's going to be a gift to ELH if they do come in here. Double Lammy.
Yep.
And that's what you want to see at this portion of the game. You wouldn't mind that hunting rifle at all, but having the double Lammy for your team, massive pickup.
Yeah, hunting rifle's great, but being able to go in when you know that the powder keg is going to go off and you need to be able to survive through gun battles and multiple guns on you, being able to absorb 2 more bullets is big.
What does each resource do? And when we've seen the hunting rifle so far in this tournament, we've seen it pick up maybe 1 kill per engagement.
I've only seen 1 kill overall the whole tournament.
I've only seen 1 kill from the hunting rifle as well. Not sure if there was one that maybe missed, but we've only seen the hunting rifle maybe trade out for 1 player. That resource is good for 1 kill. Double Lammy, that's 4 shots.
That's big.
That's enough to keep up 2 players in most gunfights.
I think the smoke meta right now and how liberal people are with their smokes is probably eliminating a lot of the use for the hunting rifle, and probably why we haven't seen all that much.
We talked about WBG and Echo Fox being 2 of these teams that are going to be Titans and the ones that actually determine the flow of this game. They get very close to each other there. You can see that neither of them wants to open up. It's going to be Denial, though, to let some shots ring out in this second game. Ooh. Will Echo Fox take this fight?
Echo Fox is going to see that they're in a rough spot here. They're going to lose their car. They're going to start smoking off. This is a center safe zone thing that they ended up in yesterday during qualifiers. We'll see if they can play out of it. Right here, they need to recognize that sitting in the middle is going to get you killed. You need to contend with one of these teams for a better positioning. This is not one of the roadblocks that gives you enough cover from other players, especially when they are lobbing explosive tip arrows at you. You have 1 vehicle left. You either need to push in, do a controlled hop out and spread and take out maybe Denial, or move across into these trees that are out to the left side of the screen here and start getting some cover from other sides.
Denial are being absolute bullies here. From their little area, from their cover, they're managing to sink some damage into Epsilon, and you've already seen the corner that they have backed Echo Fox into. Echo Fox needs to split up too because they need to cover every side at this point, and it's ultimately going to be a member from TK who falls down first. It's 2 members from TK. We said they had the best positioning on the map, and they are up there just falling down. A member from Epsilon is going to get taken down. It's going to be LG guns and an Echo Fox gun.
Yeah, TK coming down, but it looks like Obey is outplaying the push back up. They did not rotate early enough. They are pinched between the gas. Obey spotted them, and they're now having to battle their way out of the gas while fighting a team. And they're fighting the current reigning champions from Fight for the Crown. This is not the position you wanted to be in. That's why I was saying they needed to rotate early. They needed enough time to have the engagement before the gas was on their back, adding extra pressure. Obey, playing from a much less pressured situation, is going to be able to outplay them at that coming back up the hill.
And look in the top left portion of your screen. There it is, just in time to see the frag go off from Mobs. TK goes from being our leading team in this game to potentially the first one to be sent home. Only 2 players going to remain here. And as you can see, they are not healthy yet. Prox is going to be the only player with full health. And it looks like we may actually see the second to last TK member choke out on the smoke. Measly wants to come in, though, to finish off the TK squad. Proc's going to need to play for his life here, and it doesn't look like that life is going to be played out long. At about 25% health. Shots coming in from multiple teams. Now Obey going to try to finish him off while keeping an eye onto ELH. If they can open up on Europe's last hope, they could potentially send another squad out of this second game. Prox, though, hanging on just a little bit longer. May be able to pick up some kills, maybe pick off a pinch, but the most important thing he wants to watch for is his placement. A lot of kills are starting to come in, though, now. If you want to be keeping track of them yourself, you can jump over to h1z1.com/watch to actually see this kill feed crystallized in time. Follow it throughout the remainder of the game. Measly, though, is unrelenting, putting this pressure into ELH, not necessarily going for a kill. They are at that 250-meter range. That's where it starts to get difficult to figure out exactly what the lead and drop needs to be. But Shurima Wizard feels confident enough now that they have put in that aggression to push up on this map, find a new safe position. We move back over to Echo Fox and see that they have not been able to find a better position on this map. They're still pinned in. Denial was able to bully them very well. Denial, though, going to need to focus on the other squads that are around them, like Hale. And now it is just a symphony of bullets, Supersonic.
Yeah, Echo Fox just trying to open up big onto Gangstars over there and just kind of keep them stuck back there against the edge of the gas. The sirens have gone off, the gas is going to start moving, and at this point, if you have the ability to keep someone stuck against the gas, even if you're not getting the kills, you are putting them in a really, really rough spot. This is chaos here for Gangstars. Also, with WBG coming in on them, you have explosive tip arrows, smoke's coming out, a lot of things that are just messing up your game, your visibility, any information that you're able to gather is being taken away from you, and you're being forced into the open, and they are not handling this very well. They are 100% split. Gangstars is most likely going to be the next one eliminated. They are not currently operating as a team.
Yeah, and we're going to see a player from Echo Fox being able to get a kill in at that moment. And Echo Fox really not operating from a great position on the map. We were talking about the fact that they really needed to contest, to push in, and to try to take a better position. And now Europe's last hope going to get obliterated by Hale. They're still in this just barely. They seem to be in almost as bad a shape as Prox, the last member from TK. And we're going to see WBG cut another Gangstar down to size.
Gangstar right here in the smoke, right next to Echo Fox, but Flitch is going to go down to Isco, and Fury will drop to Flitch. Isco going ahead and getting that return kill. Kuge going to drop to JP, and an assist out of Adrian as MMX chokes out on the gas. We're back on board with Hale. Prodigy Ace is trying to get healed up here as LG presses in through that smoke. Blood Inferno extremely low as well. MiG also very low. Hale in between three teams. This is going to be a really hard position for them to play their way out of. Echo Fox back into a contention here, and it looks like Kriz is sitting in the back seat. We have a flame hopper play going on inside of this Jeep right now, right in front of Echo Fox, and they have not spotted him yet.
Someone did his homework.
Zeke.
That's going to be huge. It's one of the only things that Kriz can do in this moment. Echo Fox so concerned with the pressure that is coming out, not necessarily going to see him yet, but it looks like Howie is approaching that Jeep. May find out that there is an enemy lurking in their camp, and we are going to see Kriz get taken down, but it's not by Echo Fox, it's by Aqua from World's Best Gaming. ELH desperately hanging on for their life, but Hale unrelenting, gonna get some shots. Vago could fall over at any moment. Just one shot needs to be sunk in. Going to fall down to the gun of Prodigy Aces.
Yeah, he goes down measly in a really rough situation, extremely low. Obey all hurting right now. Denial looking fairly strong here. Only one player really with any damage into him. Mobs and Measly are both going to drop to Yogi, and Blood Inferno is going to go ahead and pick himself up a kill onto Zeke. LG now finally entering the fray, gonna come in and start mopping up onto Hale as they drop Blood Inferno and Prodigy. And I do believe that we just lost 4 teams in just a few moments there, and Impact now in a fight with Denial. Denial making the first blood in that battle.
LG in an incredible position here. We do see Epsilon's Apex Shay trying to play the gas a little bit, get cheeky. It's the equivalent of playing that G play. An Echo Fox player going to be taken out. This time it is Mini. Echo Fox's positioning is getting better as the gas does encroach, but still not much in the way of cover. LG looking to be in a very favorable position here, and they have a huge man advantage. The other team up with 5 is going to be Denial. They are currently in a fight, though, with IG, and it is going to be Candyvan, who we jump into on right now. He was one of those players that we got to spoke to a little bit earlier. He is backed up by Shell Shock, someone who has come alive so far in these games, and we're going to see WBG get popped. It is Aqua, but an Echo Fox player going to fall down here as well.
Yeah, Echo Fox now in a pinch play between WBG and LG. This is going to be really, really hard on them. Candyvan going to go down. Denial winning that engagement against Impact right now. We only have a couple teams with 5 players up. Currently, we have Luminosity, Denial, and CLG with 5 players up. We haven't seen a lot out of CLG yet. We'll see what ends up happening once they decide to enter the battle, but they seem to be playing it very slow. Apex Shay is going to go down to the gas there. Echo Fox starting to get cleaned up. CBK Flame going to go down. Howie returning to kill onto Isco. Gorani going to go down, but to Howie, and Gas Runner is going to finally get Howie down, and that is going to be it for Echo Fox.
Shell Shock could shake things up here, but if LG can spot him quick enough, it shouldn't be a problem. 5v1, but he can be very disruptive. World's Best Gaming, they have only 2 hopes left at this point. This is a beautiful play. They get the gas into that smoke to deny that area. A lot of damage going to come into Shell Shock here. That's as good as 1 shot, and he is still going to take a couple of ticks. A smoke coming out. Chipsy going to lie down in that. That is going to make the line of sight very blurry for Shell Shock. He's down to about half health here, trying to pre-aim.
Shell's not even trying to pre-aim at this point. He is literally just hoping that they do not gas nade him anymore. He just wants to wait out teams, but Chipsy is going to find him laying behind that log, take him out, and that is going to take out Impact. Impact taking 5th place in this game. We have 17 players remaining, 4 teams up. CLG with 5, LG with 5, Denial with 5, and there's 2 left from World's Best. This is a really rough situation, and World's Best is going to most likely get pinched out here from CLG. We'll see if they can do any damage and possibly take a player away. This is going to be a 5-on-5 fight at the end, it appears to be. And Gas Runner is going to drop to that gas nade from Nightwalker. He could not outrun that gas.
Aqua seems like the next to fall, but CLG's Grimmy Bear is going to fall down while contesting. And just like that, Flamehopper goes down as well. FPS comes online and finally finishes off Aqua. That's going to send World's Best Gaming home. LG in such a good position here. They can easily challenge FPS from CLG, but Denial has managed to stay out of the fight for now. We see 3 of the players start to rotate around to that top portion of the map where they can find Calzy and Nightwalker, who is going to open up first. Adrian at 50% health. It's going to be Drazzle, though, who finds Nightwalker. CLG is close to being sent out of this game. Crank gets popped, going to throw in a throwable to that LG squad. FPS gets knocked out as well. Crank comes alive, sending home JP2.
Yeah, Denial going off here. I think the story here right now is that WBG goes down in 4th. The last 4 teams are 4 of the 5 teams that qualified from the fight for the crown. We currently have 3 teams that qualified, throwing down. Calzy just trying to stay alive. He is going to get spotted and mopped up by LG, and we are going to have a 4-on-5 between 2 of the top 5 teams from Fight for the Crown. Ninja here looking to get a throwable out. Denial in the stronger position with 5 players up. We'll see if LG has what it takes to go ahead and fight an uphill battle. Drassel and Chipsy on a wide flank. I don't know that Denial has eyes on him. They may have the option to go. Wrong. Yogi gonna spot him, calls it out, and his team starts to rotate. Tifu gonna grab a vehicle to give himself some mobile cover to open up a new angle, get a wider shot on them, and cut down those positions of LG. Chipsy does find a kill on the Crank to even the score up, though, but he gets hit. Ninja's gonna get hit a couple times, takes out Yogi. Tiny goes. LG fighting uphill, taking this down, and it is down to 5 players left. Tifu, I believe, is the last one left. LG's gonna come up. Tifu takes out a player, but LG mops up the end of that game and takes it down.
Absolutely beautiful play. I mean, they were down there. They managed to get a really good line. They get those smokes out. They managed to rotate around, and they take their disadvantage and play They just play it very well, and they end up coming up on top. And LG was one of those teams that we said could really do it here, looking incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. So they were definitely in an uphill battle. We saw great plays out of Yogi to spot that there was somebody missing. Where are the other two bodies? He finds them. We see Tfue make a play to create cover using a vehicle. It's the end of the game. That resource isn't needed. Throw it out there, get that angle, and get the shots. However, the players lost their gun battles, and LG was able to battle back and take down this second game. But seeing a ton of teams from that Fight for the Crown event be there was awesome to see those guys. That's showing consistency.
Yeah, it definitely does. Now, thinking about LG coming in this first place and think about their performance from the last game, doesn't necessarily ensure them the highest placing yet. They are going to jump up quite a bit. Imagine around second place.
I mean, they're definitely going to be.
They might even be in first at this moment.
They might even be in first. I would have to see and see what their score was from the first one. But I mean, they're definitely up there, top contender to go ahead and place and take down money again at their second event in a row.
Yeah, absolutely incredible, especially when they find themselves down. I mean, they had a very favorable position until that clash with Denial, and you could kind of see that coming the entire time. Denial sets themselves up very well. But it was the shots that were being called from LG that enabled them to get that movement. And you could see they were shooting as a team. They were really trying to stick it to the same Denial player at every moment. Some good throwables came out there as well in those later portions of the game. But got to give it up to LG. They played incredibly well.
Yeah, LG definitely played their way out of a down situation, came back and was able to come up big with that win.
Now, when we do move into the next game, need to pay attention to those teams. TK, though, disappointing with what I thought that they were going. They got gifted a great position. They played it incredibly well, and then they started to lose gun battles, but the major reason that they did was they didn't necessarily get to that safe zone in time. We start to see some...
I think they rotated too late. I didn't see it on the map, but that's my assumption because we did come into them with two guys in the gas still, and I do believe they got pinched into that gas and weren't able to play down the way that they wanted to into Obey. Obey spotted them, was able to turn, get them pinched, and as soon as you get stuck between a team and the gas and your option is to step into the gas, the other guys have more visibility, they have a little bit more cover. It becomes a really bad situation, but it could have been a very good one had they rotated sooner.
Yeah, I mean, it could have gone. The other thing that would have been very favorable for TK, too, was if the gas actually cooperated with them and moved a little bit closer towards the peaks, allow them to take something like Radio Tower. I mean, they had a favorable position, but those favorable positions in the early portions of the game don't mean that much if the engagements don't come in. They're really just a base to move off of into the next position. And as you can see, the teams that did get set up well were the ones that were able to make it out to the last remaining positions. We had some players come up very big and start to play for placement as well. We saw those Jeep plays come through. We saw Prox hang on for a little while there. We saw a member of Epsilon. I'm trying to remember exactly who it was. Was it Splint? We had a member of Epsilon who went into the gas, lasted in there for I think he jumped up 2 slots just based on playing the gas.
we went from everybody being in, a lot of teams down a player, down 2 players. It much later before we lost our first team this game compared to game 1. Similar safe zone though to start, but slightly different in that final circle. There was a lot more cover, and we saw a tree battle rather than open field, but we still saw, even with that, the peak shots, the frame peaks not necessarily going the way of Denial, and they go down to a couple nades and get broken up in that split to try and get the wide angle, and LG just goes ahead and collapsed on one side and just broke down the left side of that line.
Now, after we've seen 2 games, we have a lot of data points, right? What do you expect to see when we go into the 3rd game? I mean, Echo Fox is one of the teams I want to talk about the most and predict what we will see from them. I think they played much better this time around, much closer to their play style that works for them. They just ended up getting pinched really hard. I mean, they operated so well.
They stayed alive for a long time.
With so little. They were in one of the worst positions on the map there towards the end of the game, and they're managing to actually aggress teams. They were getting bullied by Hale. They were getting bullied by Denial, and they hold their ground. They may have needed to be, this is a weird thing to think too, but they may have needed to be slightly more aggressive once they found themselves in that position and actually try to use their gun skill to take one of those positions. The danger that comes with that is if you do lose a man in that gunfight, you have a great place to hang out but no one to party with.
Yeah, we talked about it, and they basically had the option of going ahead and either challenging Denial, which is a tough fight. Denial being one of the top teams out there. If you go around and ask, they're definitely one of the highly favored teams in this event. To go up against, I mean, any of these guys is going to be a strong fight. But they only had that cover, a bunch of open field, WBG on that side, obviously, that forced them to back up, or play that other line of trees across from Denial, which Denial, as we saw, was trying to basically, as you said, bully that area and make sure that nobody came anywhere near it. And going into those trees and only having a small dirt path between you two is close enough that Denial is going to sit there and start raining nades. Denial doesn't want anybody around them. If you're within about 60 meters, if you're in throwable range, Denial is coming to kill you. They will challenge you each and every time if you're in their territory.
Yeah, now do you think Echo Fox tries to play it more similarly to Game 2 when they actually get into this third and final game? Or
yeah, I think they try and maybe look for a better spot to not get forced into that middle situation. Again, they're having to play out of the middle, and the only spot that was good in the middle was Denial's, and they played it very well until LG actually rotated into those trees and came in on them.
Now, what else do we expect to actually see when we jump into this game? I think before we even do that, we should take a look at the results that actually do come in from game number 2, and that will help us predict what we will see. And Luminosity slaying out incredibly hard here. You only get 175K points based off of placement, and they're going to jump all the way up to 191,000 points.
I think in teams it might be 180, so it might be 11.
Oh, is it?
I might be off, but
are you sure?
But I mean, we're still talking about we're in double-digit kills, so they've eliminated at a minimum 2 teams. I may be off on this for some. It's math.
I thought it was 175K because we saw.
But I mean, either way, 11 or 16 kills. Either way, they slayed out hard at the end.
Yeah, they looking absolutely incredible. Denial, not as slay heavy, really is going to be reflected there. They come in with this 129K finish, just about 130. A lot of that is going to be from their placement points. They played very passively, and you need to commend them for it. They were able to stay out of a lot of those engagements. That's why they got second place, but they do get outgunned there by the end. And now, looking at the overall, this is the game total. So we're going to see quite a shift.
Yeah, so we're going to see a shift. Luminosity going to go ahead and bump up and take that first place positioning away from Impact Gaming, but we are very close. We are within 9. We are exactly 9 kills away between first and second. So this is a very small gap, and then it starts to open up into CLG and World's Best. So we'll see how this ends up playing out into the third game, but currently right now, Luminosity or Impact is looking really strong to go ahead and take down the overall.
They look incredibly strong, but in the wings, you do have Counter Logic Gaming and World's Best Gaming, and we saw big performances from these guys. Denial also not looking bad at all. It really does come down to a first-place finish here for any of these top 5 teams could spell victory, could spell first place. And the top 5 teams here, with the combined scores, they are going to all be getting prize money, the top 5 teams.
Yeah, absolutely. So top 5, yeah, I mean, you're still getting bounties and everything too. It's still possible that maybe a player makes a bunch of money when maybe somebody outside of that top ends up netting themselves at least a good number of kills at each game and takes the whole thing down.
We have an interesting pattern starting to form here.
5.
We've been paying attention to the top kills. Obviously, we do have this bounty system in place. Bounties are massive. They are going to be included in the total amount of points that you get, 1,000 for each kill, but also $3,000 going to whoever does get the most kills throughout these 3 games here in our finals for the teams. With the top kills in Game 2 goes to JP2 from LG, got 5 kills. Now,
so that's the top for a game so far on a single team. So we only saw players.
Trey's got 4.
We saw all of them get tied. So 3 players tied for 4 last game, but we see JP come up with 5. It'd be interesting to see when we get towards the end just how many kills maybe JP had in the first game and those other players. I think it's going to be a little bit more math than we're going to be doing, but it'll be interesting to see at the end.
That we start to see. I mean, Triv gets 4. His team comes in first place. Now we see JP2 is going to get 5 with his team getting first place.
That's typically how it works.
It definitely does. And the player who was talking about that the most is actually one of the teammates of JP2. It's going to be Drazzle. Drazzle talking about how high you expect to see the teams that do win in teams slaying out towards that later portion of the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
So expect to see some very big kills coming in from the guys who managed to last until the end of the game, unless you find yourself in another flame hopper situation.
So actually, we did just go ahead and get a confirmation of who is in the overall kill lead for that bounty so far, and it is Chipsy off of LG with a total of 8 kills. He picked up another 4 in game 2.
So that's the leader overall right now with 8. So that is going to be huge. It's going to be LG overall taking it. They took it in game 2, and then they took it in the overall. So we do still have in the first game, it's going to be Triv in the top with 4, but now LG looking really good to be potentially be taking home this bounty prize.
Yeah, and then it looks like Aqua's going to be in that second place position with 6, which I'm assuming is going to put JP2 in third with those 5 kills. That is still a very easy thing to pick up and jump into that first place, because you can knock out 5 players or more in a game. If you're maybe the flank player for your team, there's a much higher chance that you're going to net those kills. Well, let's talk about that really quick. What if you're the flank player who's usually the one picking up the kills for the team? Is there something worked out where if you win the cash prize, you have to divide it up between the team?
There has to be. I definitely think it's probably team dependent, but I would assume they're making some sort of arrangement there. One of the interesting things to actually look at, it's a bittersweet scenario when you do find yourself very close on this Slay leaderboard, on the bounty leaderboard, when your team's doing so well. I mean, the only thing that you can think about, it's bittersweet because, yeah, you can't play for that little side prize that is there, but it's definitely pretty awesome to be in the position that LG could be taking the entire thing here. All of the people that we see in the top kills are on teams that could take the whole thing. This third game is going to determine it all.
Yeah, absolutely. So this third game, Impact is playing very consistent. LG playing consistent as we see him at the top. It'll be interesting to see which one of them, who if they both play consistent again, it's going to be whoever edges the other one out, unless somebody in that third, fourth, fifth spot kind of gets that big bump or eliminates those 2 teams early. I'd still say that the top half of this field, they're all at about 199,000 or higher, so you could still jump up very high if you can get those 2 teams knocked out early. That first place contention spot becomes very open.
We're usually seeing the top place team come in with about 180K placement points, but you do have to keep in mind those guys at the top of the leaderboard, even if they completely bomb, if they completely choke in this last game, they're still going to be getting some placement points. So
they're most likely still going to land in the top 5. I don't think there's a way for LG or Impact to get dropped out of money contention.
Let's say that LG completely, exactly. Let's say that LG completely bombs, comes in 12th place here. With such a solid point lead, you're still gaining points.
Right.
So it's not like the other team's going to get a 180K clear jump on you. It's much closer to something like 100 and probably 60, 150K jump. So they will still be able to contend for that top 5 easily. But this final game is going to determine it all. It really comes down to the first place, just so many placement points on the line. Whoever does manage to take that should be able to cleanly take the money. And we pretty much have edged out our top 5, but for the most part, you go all the way down to the top 8, and they're still hovering around that 100K point range.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and what do we see on players like from TK? They're at a point where I don't know that they can make it into money contention anymore. Do you start going for that bounty system? Do you try and go out with a bang and do some highlight plays and just try to eliminate players? They have some players like Linden who are very, very aggressive players that want to take gunfights normally in his usual gameplay. I think that there's a chance that we maybe see the bounty system actually have an effect due to TK. I believe they were eliminated first in both rounds, or at least in the bottom 2 in each round.
I think that that factor could come into play. And I think this is one of the positions where we really could see it start to come online, see players play for bounties. But at the same time, I don't think that TK is out of money contention if they got first place. If they believe in their capability to get a first place finish, and we already saw some heads-up plays from them on the map, really rotating well, getting the best areas. If they can have a game like that, they could easily take first place. Maybe if they rotated a little bit earlier, we would be talking about them getting first place in the last game. If they get it, they'll easily hit the top 5 and take home. It's a 150K prize pool. Even if you move down to that 5th place position, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, I want to talk to them once we get done here. Once it's over and kind of figure that out. I want to find out if they rotated late or if they rotated early. I'm still going to sit here and stay with my gut and say that they rotated too late. to that safe zone. You have to assume that where you were, that somebody was at least playing Veshin's Peak in some capacity, and you need to know that somebody's below you and get to them before they can pinch you into the gas. I think that if they had rotated earlier, they would have maybe got there before Obey spots them, maybe at least give themselves more time to fight out before gas got them.
Yeah, and I think talking to the players at the end of this entire series is going to be interesting for a number of reasons. I mean, we're going to be wrapping a tournament with a new format that's based off these qualifier matches and a combination of invitations. So when we talk to them and see how that actually played out, the number of games that were played, it's not just a jump in and play one game.
Yeah.
And we talked about the fact that the meta is changing. How did you guys actually try to adapt to these new safe zones? How did you guys try to adapt to each other in this LAN environment? We're going to hear a lot from the players. And I think after the games are all said and done, they'll be very willing to talk about that strategy. And for us and everyone at home, that's going to be some of the most interesting things in this tournament, because it's really going to allow us to look forward to what's going to happen in the DreamHack Winter Tournament, which is going to take place in Sweden. The H1Z1 Elite Series just getting started. It's going to be around for quite some time.
Yeah, definitely. And at the very least, I'd like to go ahead and give a shout out to Aces Republic of Gamers and Corsair for supplying us with everything for this week. And we definitely couldn't have done it without them. We got all of our rigs and our monitors brought to us by Asus, and we have our Republic of Gamers from Asus and Corsair supplying all of our peripherals. Big shout out, huge thank you to you guys and helping us keep this Elite Series going.
Yeah, I mean, they gave us the stuff that it takes to play video games. I mean, we had the players, but without the rigs, we would not be able to actually get this tournament going. A major shout out to Daybreak, too, for holding it down here. This tournament's been absolutely incredible. DreamHack's just been one of the coolest events I've been to.
Yeah,
it's so cool to actually be in NA for a DreamHack. Just such an experience. Still getting used to it.
Yeah, it's definitely a different environment. I've done TwitchCon and I've done this, and it's both of them are very high energy locations, but this is definitely a completely different environment here at DreamHack, and I can't wait to see how these continue to go. And I think that we were talking about formatting a minute ago with these tournaments. I did get a little conversation with some players, so I can fill in a little bit, and a lot of the guys do actually prefer this format. They like the formatting better. I think every player always wants to get more games in. I don't think we're ever going to be able to give players the number of games that they want. It's just not logistically possible.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
But they like this format compared to things that they have experienced before. It allows them to showcase themselves better. It gives them more opportunities. And anytime they can have more opportunities, I think they're going to be pretty happy.
Yeah, from actually talking to the players, too, I'm pretty sure if we came up to them and said we were going to do a 100-game qualifier format, they'd be like, yeah, that's exactly what I want. Obviously, we can't do that.
They'd be like, so are you paying for my housing, everything else? I'll stay here. I'll play 100 games, but...
Yeah, and the thing is, though, is when you start to get these rings like this, that we've seen them in 3 games now in the past 2 days that are they're very difficult rings to adapt to. Some of these players are going to feel like they aren't as prepared as they are for a more standard, maybe city finish or just a finish more central on the map.
They want more northern safe zones, or maybe some that land somewhere around the northwest corner where there's some trees, some more hills, but more flat ground type of hills, not necessarily the super mountainous areas, not these areas that are just 100% flat and just dead open, where 1 or 2 teams have trees and everybody else is just trying to slay out in the middle and hope that they can get third and then let those 2 fight it out. These guys are definitely looking for a different safe zone. They do not want to go southeast again. They will not be happy in southeast.
It almost just seems right for it to go southeast again at this point.
It's some like sort of sick way, we could get some sort of sick satisfaction out of that, but I don't think a single player wants to go down there again. Unless it's going to be the exact same position and Denial gets to play that exact same position again. They might be the only ones that want to do that.
Yeah, I think that is true. I would love to see it just end in a city finish. I've made it very clear that the city finish would be something exciting to see throughout the entire tournament. Haven't really gotten it too much yet. We'll have to see if this final game will provide it, but we have a bunch of people just starting to tune in right now to see this last game of the H1Z1 Elite Series. I want to welcome all of you. If you're new to H1Z1, though, we have a true master here who can kind of break down how this game is going to function.
Yeah, so for anybody just tuning in, the way this game basically functions in a tournament environment is it's very slow to start. These guys are all going to try and spread out, avoid each other. They're going to land on the map, get looted up, transfer into the mid-game, which happens right about the time that the first gas circle is going to close in and force these guys closer together to fight it out. Once that goes, we're now going to see teams starting to have to adjust and rotate to the new circles as they continue to center upon themselves or shift north, east, south, or west, and they will need to find new zones and hold off other teams as they come in, making strategies such as pinching players against the gas. As the gas closes in, if you're holding the edge of the new circle, you can basically put pressure on the other team that way, or looking to hear and see fights between two teams in a prime real estate location when you're not in a good position, and then coming in strong to kind of mop up and clean that up and take that position for yourself while netting kills for points and lining your pockets with $100 each kill.
Yeah, and as you can hear with all of those factors, it's definitely going to be a game of adaptability and on-the-fly thinking. But unlike some of the games that you may have played if you are an H1Z1 player just starting to watch the competitive scene before, these phases are going to break down very clearly. That looting phase that happens in the beginning of the game, players aren't really going to want to be taking fights, but every now and then we will see it go down. Someone grabs a gun really quick, someone's right near them, they get to load up first, and they will take them down. But for the most part, especially in teams, expect to see them to disengage in the early portions of the game.
Didn't see any fights at the beginning of that last game. We didn't. It was quite a while before we saw the first kill and we saw the first team eliminated. Much later than we saw in the first game. Definitely much later than we see in solos. Fives is definitely a slower paced game, but a lot more action once we transfer into mid game.
Oh yeah, the bullets are going to be flying towards the end, but before we get to that end game, there is also going to be that mid game phase, and this is where teams start to really test each other. They're scouting, they're trying to find those good locations, and when they see another team on the map, they're going to try to rip resources away from them, whether it's a vehicle or a helmet or some body armor. They're going to do whatever they can to try to slow down the pace of the other team. And every now and then we will actually start to see some engagements break out in that mid portion of the game. And then that's when we get to the late game, which is an absolute explosion in the kill feed.
I mean, it goes from no kills to war of attrition, trying to eliminate some of the resources, maybe get a pick here and there, little minor engagements and skirmishes, and then it eventually hits a point where it tips, and all it becomes is just an all-out slugfest and gun battle. Positioning still having a huge part in that, but a lot of it comes down to just who is going to win their gun battles and who can do it and then acquire their next target effectively. A team communication in these situations where you are in trees and being able to call these things out. In most games, you're typically calling left. A lot of games are set up with maps that have choke points and things like this. In this, people are very open. It's a sandbox, so you have to call things out as player is west, fourth tree in. You need to be able to give them exact locations because they may have been fighting off the team behind you guys, and when they come to join you, they need to know the exact positioning of where those players are so they can be the most effective for your team.
Yeah, and we have seen this throughout the entirety of the tournament, but now that we're about to jump in to the final game, we should take a look at the path that these players took to get here. We did 2 tournaments at this DreamHack. The H1Z1 Elite Series had both solos and fives. These fives teams, though, were broken up into 2 separate groups, and they each had 12 teams, and the top 3 from each of those groups advanced to this grand final, and then the 7th place team overall. Waiting for them there were 5 invited teams from that past tournament that actually went down on the CW, and that is how we got our top 12 teams today. A little bit earlier, we resolved that solo queue action, and we actually sent players home with $100,000 in prize money. After this next game, $150K is going to be going to these teams.
Yeah, absolutely. $150K today. The solo event was amazing yesterday. Ton of energy, especially for that late in the night. We had a very late call time for that one.
2 in Atlanta,
I believe we ended somewhere around 1:30 to 2 here in Atlanta, but it was a ton of fun to watch, ton of energy, amazing community that just absolutely loved this game. And we are going to see the split here as it opens up. IG going to be going ahead and dropping down into PV along with Hale and Epsilon. Everybody else kind of spreading out. Denial with a strong start. Here again, going to have all of Harris Ridge to themselves. We'll have to see where this first safe zone goes, and we see a lot of grouping along the south edge. I'm going to probably say that we're going to end up somewhere near the southwest area of the map.
Yeah, I think Southwest might be a good call here, and if we do get one of those rings right around Overlook or around Runamuck Lake, we might actually see some of it get cut off again, and then we find ourselves in the same position that we have been in some of these awkward rings, some of these difficult rings to traverse. The other option here is it just goes completely askew, and maybe I think it's going to go to the south for sure, but we might end up seeing it around Ruby Lake again as well.
Right. So the thing that these players are probably looking for is like an ideal prime real estate location that has a lot of hills and everything is right up there in the north between Ranchito and that lake in the northwest corner. There's a spot where the actual safe zone can hit and center upon itself, and you don't have any water in your way. It's just 100% open hills, and they get to do a lot of the kind of fun long-range peak battles with each other and just see who can connect those rapid-fire back-to-back headshots to start taking each other out early.
On board with Ninja from LG. One of the guys we got to see in solos yesterday a little bit, JP2, one of the big slayers for this team so far in the team battles. Team obviously on fire. They are in the lead for first place.
Just barely, though, hanging on to that first place. Impact Gaming within about 7 kills. I think it's an actually exactly 7-kill spread
it is
right
exactly
now.
7 kills.
So
yeah.
they definitely need to place higher than Impact. If Impact gets a higher placement, most likely the placement point bonus will be larger than the number of kills that LG can acquire in this match unless they both go out very early.
No one can let up on the reins here. We are in that looting phase, but every decision going to matter because whoever takes this one is going to be getting that king share of the $150K prize pool. The other thing to note as well, if you are just tuning in, you can also watch on h1z1.com/watch. That's going to be giving you live results and statistics up to date, so you can see that kill feed actually frozen there on the screen. You'll know exactly who took out who. Don't expect to see too many of those kills just yet. Teams need to figure out exactly where they want to be on the map before they start engaging. On board with Denial now. We saw them have a really impressive position on the map in the last game. Now trying to get kitted up.
Yeah, Yogi, one of those guys that's definitely well aware and does a lot of call-outs for these guys, tries to always kind of keep an eye on the battlefield and let these guys know what's going on. And we did see him make that great call in the last game, and him and Tifu were able to rotate. Unfortunately, the other side of their line did lose those gun battles to LG as they collapsed the one side of the line and fought back 4v5 to take down the game. Expect to see them come back and try to take down the game as a whole this round. They definitely want to show up.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. It all comes down to this. This is going to be our last game here from DreamHack for the H1Z1 Elite Series. This is the most important game that we have seen so far. It's Championship Sunday right now. Everyone needs to show up. Here's Guarani. He managed to win a game in the solos yesterday, having a very impressive placement for his team. World Best Gaming have looked really good so far in teams, and we are just a couple of seconds out from actually seeing where this first ring is going to land. And there it is.
It is
this
up,
is
and
rough.
We are going to have Ruby Lake. We are going mainly east, but we're still going a little bit south. We have definitely rolled some dice that are loaded today, and we are going back down to this side of the map. Echo Fox probably not too displeased with that. They do have that option, as you can see, all of Humperdinck Reserve, and there's a ton of places that you can hold in there, and it'll most likely pull down kind of where Echo Fox is, just east of them a little bit. Now, the water is going to eliminate a ton on the south. It also opens up a ton of sight lines for players that are playing right around where Echo Fox is. They should be able to see anybody coming in from the west or from the south with a ton of space. You've got to cross a lot of open field to get to them. So if they can hold these trees right here to the east, they're in a very good position to play for the late game. But you want to be out there on the edge still and make those plays they made yesterday where you come in late to the action and do the cleanup, very similar to what we just saw LG do in the mop-up of Game 2.
Yeah, you don't want to be the aggressor here in H1Z1 most of the time. You want to be the finisher. Thing to note, too, Ruby's Lake is still one of those areas that is inside of this safe zone. That island there has never had any payoff for the teams that have, in this tournament, who have grabbed that position. We'll see if anyone tries to hold it, but I assume that players are going to try to push on a more northern path.
Yeah, it definitely has not worked out for anybody on that island yet. It has been a really rough spot. You typically, basically, have decided to 100% sacrifice your vehicle coming off of that island when the gas ring pulls away from it, unless it centers upon you, which is very low percentage chance in the grand scheme of things. It's typically just not a good idea.
Mini going to make sure he takes care of all of those explosive barrels before he starts to loot throughout that camp. But we're going to hop on with the boys from LG. moving around together inside of that truck. And this isn't a bad area to have the truck in. Usually a lower priority vehicle, but there is some destructible content that truck
gotta take
can
what you
plow
get though.
through.
And there is the Lammy there for Drassel. That's a nice pickup for him. Definitely one that you want. And something that we didn't talk about in the cities during looting, so something for the looting phase in the early game is that laminated armors actually only spawn in a 250-meter radius now. So you cannot see two within 250 meters of each other. It used to be where you could walk in and it was just spawns across the map, and any of them can activate. So sometimes you roll those dice and you walk into a room and there's 3 laminated, and at that time they also weighed less. You could carry 2 extra lammies in your backpack plus the one on your body, and that's a new recent change and why we're seeing players have to get into the airdrops, grab one, throw it on the ground, grab the other one so somebody else can pick it up because they just weigh too much to be put in your backpack.
Yeah, it is really big, the fact that you can't just be looting them nonstop next to each other. They are going to be spread out, but the biggest change is really going to be how much they weigh. We see even looting them having just a very different approach. I mean, a lot of play with the Lammy and the trunk and actually trying to store the Lammies in the trunk, so once one pops off, you can move over, grab another one, and actually have it available because you can't just keep it in your backpack. They're just going to be way too heavy. But now taking a peek at Epsilon for the first time here, we saw some really aggressive play come out from them in that first game, and that was how they managed to send TK packing their bags very early. We'll see if they come up with anything that clever again here. We know that their shot caller is able to get the entire team to snap onto one player. That makes them a major threat going into this final game of the Elite Series.
Yeah, absolutely. And IG looked like they may have wanted that airdrop, but they're going to go ahead and drive off. They definitely saw Epsilon coming by. And again, let's go back and talk about this. So they did take out, or basically put TK in a really rough spot, and TK has had 2 rough games in a row. Does TK go for kills? Do they become that aggressive player? I can definitely see somebody like Linden talking to the guys and just saying, let's go in and give them a show. Let's go in there and just slay out. And I think that if they have the opportunity, I think TK will be more likely to try to take engagements in this round than they would have been earlier. However, first place, depending on positions of other people, first place is so many points that it might possibly be able to edge you up there, but I think that the teams played too consistently in Game 1 and Game 2 to open up the doors to allow Team Caliber to make it into that money contention.
Yeah, I mean, that 12th place finish is going to make it really hard for them, but as you noted, the factor that may make them decide to go for that kill preference here instead of just going for placing would be the fact that these bounties are in place, so they're going to be able to pick up $100 per kill, and if they get the most bounties, an additional $3,000. But if they do go for that line of play, when do you expect to see them to really start lighting up the kill feed?
I'm not sure that they can actually take down the 3,000 now that I think about it, because they went out so early that they don't have kills right now, and these players already have 5, 6, 8 kills. I don't think that a single player on their team could catch that, but I could see them just wanting to do some highlights and make a statement just to put on a show. But $100 is still $100.
Yeah, it definitely is. When we got to look at that map right now, we can see the World's Best Gaming and LG. Pretty preferable positions here. They're going to be able to slide into that safe zone. They are going to be on the outskirts. LG, of course, and World's Best Gaming are in a good spot points-wise.
Hale appears to be opening up some shots up towards Chicken from Echo Fox. Jerk taking a couple shots. I do believe the airdrop was over in that area at one point. I might be a little bit off on my my measurements there, but Jerk actually separated, and I'm assuming that he's going for that. He seems to be the guy that likes to grab the airdrops for them.
He's been the guy looting for them. I mean, we saw him grab in the first game that loot, and ultimately he did get punished and got hit by that salvo of bombs that does come down. But this time around, we do see Hale sink 2 shots into Jerk Chicken. They get 2 shots into him. Now Hale staying with this line of play, just continuing to shoot some shots. I mean, they're not trying to look for a kill here, but they are just trying to ward the other teams off, really just trying to make their mark in the ground. They
yeah,
do
I mean,
have
you're looking to just kind of maybe pick up a kill at that range. You're not really dead on aiming. You're trying to find that bullet lead, and you're either going to hit the vehicle or you're hoping to catch that shot into them and possibly get a kill. You're not within that range of going, I am absolutely getting a kill here. But if you do pick one up and you're able to injure a team, anything you can take away from another player or team is a big pickup in the late game.
Yeah, it's not going to be one of those fights where someone isn't getting out of it. It's more getting that gun hot, making sure they're not getting too close to you, and that is exactly what we do see from Hale. Now, looking from bird's eye view, we see that Echo Fox and Europe's Last Hope going to be in these wooded areas. They have a decent amount of space from each other, but now ELH going to decide to rotate around this map, getting very close to CLG, who has just been free looting. ELH may be able to actually pick someone up in an awkward location there. This is our view, though, of the entirety of the game, and CLG is going to find ELH. They can cut off some of these players. A nice smoke going to come down here. Grimmy Bear going to be the one to put in the most shots for CLG, but needs to retreat back to the rest of his team. They do have one more man who is out to the northern portion of the map that needs to rotate back and actually get in with the rest of the squad who has gotten this location right here.
ELH in a really rough spot here. They're lucky that CLG, I thought CLG was going to go ahead and try and disengage. FPS is going to try and make a big play here on the flank. He does have a cop car. He should be able to travel fairly well and quickly, but we'll see if he's able to make a play here. I don't know if Europe's Last Hope is aware that he is that far out, but it looks like he's going to go ahead and pull back. I believe I saw him driving back to the team.
Yeah, and some smokes coming out from ELH. They were the aggressors here, but it seems like they now want to be the squad in retreat, disengaging as quickly as possible, and just jumping on up that hill. I thought that the reason that they actually did go for the attack was because .FPS was pushed out so far from his team. He was kind of the guy who was the furthest away from the party.
Hiding the car there to FPS, using the ramp to hide that car. But yeah, absolutely, to FPS being that one. That I absolutely thought what you were thinking there. I thought he was going to come in and make that play from the side.
Yeah, at first I thought ELH was going to try to pick FPS off. Then it seemed like they didn't notice him, so it seemed like he was going to come in for that play from the side. Rest of his team putting down some very solid, distracting, suppressive fire. But now taking a look at this ring right now, I know you're looking at LG.
LG, yeah, LG coming in, about to cross Ruby Lake, and they're going to end up with this island possibly unless they decide to go south. It looks like they're starting to rotate. They might be trying to decide still. Nobody in the immediate vicinity. They could use it, but again, if this safe zone centers, which it most likely will, somewhere to the east side, they will have to cross open water to get there. They have a little bit of room in the south that they can make use of, some ridge lines coming up there, or they could try and gun it right now and get past GS if GS slows down on that right side.
Just want to reiterate, here in Atlanta, we have never seen this position on the lake, this island, pay off for any team that's taken it. It just has not paid off, and I think a big reason is what you touched on, the fact that when the gas doesn't go exactly your way, because it's most of the time not going to go exactly onto the island. You have to move across an open field of play. Team's going to be able to get some shots into you. On board with Pineapples now and the Denial squad. What do you think of the position that they have etched out for themselves here? It doesn't seem like a permanent home.
It's definitely not a permanent home here. They don't quite have as much as they want. I think they might just be trying to grab a little bit of loot. Piney will hold that one far end. They actually could set up. We did see them make use of this as a final style of safes or final holding location in the last round, but I don't think that this one is quite as good as the one that they had before. There's no option here if the safe zone comes off of that to have an immediate cover again. They're going to have to travel some sort of open field, and CLG with rooftops and everything right now can cause some havoc for some of these guys. Denial recognizing that they did not like that set of trees, and they are going to start moving for a new location.
And we will have to see where they end up. The other team that I really want to see on the map is going to be LG. We started to see them move more south, trying to move further and further away from that lake area, that area that can be potentially dangerous. But it is Echo Fox in your screen right now, and you can see the gas coming out from IG. And whoa, Candy Fan going to pick up the first kill of the game.
So this actually being the driver going down, as you can see, until the body despawns, CBK Flame cannot get in the car to drive it and get away. He has to wait for his teammate to despawn and get out of there. If you're going to lose a teammate, though, lose him in the car without the car getting damaged. He now has easy access to his loot as a worst-case scenario or best-case scenario after losing a player. But that is a big loss. 10K being that guy that does the explosive tip arrows, and he typically is the guy that does really well with zone denial with inside of smokes and other situations of that nature.
I mean, this is an absolute travesty for Echo Fox. They just blast on through their qualifying matches, they pick up both wins. They had to play 2 games. They win them both. They get here today, and they just are not able to compete at that same level. And the main reason why is they are dropping men early. They keep getting in this position where they only have 4 men. Everyone else has 5, and it's going to be Echo Fox to lose the first team member here. And this is the first air supply we're going to be paying a lot of attention to here. Double Lammy inside. Got some decent backpack action as well, but it's really those Lammies that you want to be paying attention to.
Yeah, absolutely. The double Lammy is a big thing, and that is actually a prime spot for somebody to be able to get one. There's a small wall all the way around. You can lay down and loot that one with very minimal exposure for yourself and very little threat. CLG should definitely take this. This is a gift. They have absolutely said, CLG, here you go. Have a couple Lammies. Are you low on some AR? Let's give you another 90 rounds, juice you up a bit, and let's see what you can do with it.
Free, no contest, don't get hit by bombs. We saw Jerk Chicken take almost a gifted one. They had to invest a smoke to loot it, but they did get hit by that salvo that rains down from the sky. Now we do see Nightwalker. He's going to have to figure out how he's going to grab both of the Lammies here.
He's going to go ahead and drop one into the car, jump out, grab the other one, get back in, and bring him back to the team.
Perfect play there. He's going to be able to, just bring that Lammy on home. That's pretty happy to see your teammate bring that home for dinner. Now it is going to be Epsilon getting some fire into Obey.
Obey, who we saw take that fight and end up taking that fight to the players of TK as they came down Veshine's Peak in the last round. Veshine's Peak going to actually be completely out of this safe zone. We're not going to be in that same area. We are going farther east and a different safe zone than we have seen. We ended up going south yesterday of Ruby Lake. We have not been out on this east side. There is a small chance here that we end up with a chaos ending, that it centers a little more left-sided and you lose half the safe zone to the water. There has been times where these safe zones actually pull into the water in the final circle completely, and all you have is 3 or 4 teams standing there just using crouches and jumps and spamming smoke nades and bullets until one man is left.
Yeah, just trying to make their own cover. That could be the case here. I mean, there are quite a few ways that this gas can skew, but it's looking like we're going to be having a much tighter ring than we are used to. And yeah, Shurima Wizard may actually see Adrian here starting to get some shots in. He is still in kill range. It's going to be Adrian to go down, but it's the shots of Measley, not Shurima Wizard. LG, this team that was in such a good position, starts to play with fire here, getting way too close to this Obey squad. And you can see it's just a Dread. The rest of the squad's actually back over in a relatively safe area.
Yeah, not able to get there necessarily in time. So Obey may be aware that LG is up there and kind of stalked Adrian and let him kind of get a little bit of loot. Adrian then realized that the doors across the way from him were open, starts moving back to get into his car. Players already ready to make that peek, take his helmet. One player took the helmet, one player took the head. Adrian's going to go down, and LG, who is in the top spot, is now again going to have to try and fight their way through this match with only 4 players up.
You can't get comfortable at any point here in H1Z1, even if you are the leader in points going into this final game. But I will say for LG, in that last game, we found them in a disadvantage when they entered that final fight, and they did come out on top. But having a 4th man this early is such a detriment, and the win percentage just drastically did decrease for this squad. Look at TK, though. They have just been able to stay out of the fray the entirety of this game. They're trying to get back into this one. They're not going for that just blood-hungry slaying action, but now they are going to have to make that trek, and they are on a collision course with none other than Epsilon, the team that has put them in this terrible position. You know they're going to have a grudge. Epsilon popping out of that car early, sending a TK player home, getting them 12th place in that first game. Will TK find their revenge with Epsilon?
Not sure if they're going to find it, but CLG, at least for this safe zone until the next one comes up, is in a really strong position with that building. They have a ton of visibility. They get to watch everybody else flying around. Just hang out and watch it. We know they've got a minimum of 2 laminated armors right now. They're feeling good, probably feeling themselves a bit. We'll see how they end up playing out of this when the next safe zone's announced, but we do see Mini scouting out for Echo Fox up there in the northwest corner as they kind of rotate down, and we'll see if they can edge out a spot for themselves. Now, Now, along the edge of the water on these lakes, as you can see as they're driving by, there are these ridge lines in certain areas that you can make really great use of. And Gorani with the WBG boys are going to open up and take out Flitch from Gangstars with a headshot and eliminate the 4th player of the match.
Absolutely beautiful kill, too. You can see the shots coming in. We were on board with Gorani, but it was going to be his team member who actually secures that a little bit closer, having that clear line, able to get it right into the head of his opponent. And we are down to 56 players. Doesn't sound like we've had too many deaths yet, but this is actually quite a few for these early stages of team play. Just want to reiterate, if you are just tuning in, this is going to be the final game. Once we see where the points fall in this one, we are going to be able to crown our champion. $150,000 on the line, Championship Sunday from DreamHack Atlanta, and we are getting very close to that final ring, Supersonic.
Yeah, we are just about there. This next ring announcement is where we are going to start seeing these fights just absolutely break out, and these players are going to have to fight their way for position or need to edge out and find out where players are not fighting at so that they can take over a great spot to come in and sweep in at the end and claim the victory and just rip the carpet out from under everybody else.
WBG cutting across open territory right now, going to have to go as fast as possible, trying to hit the cover of these hills and these trees. Going to swoop on down here. They find quite a good tree line, but it is going to be GS in the wooded area just directly across from them that they are going to have to worry about here. You can hear the sirens going. Who do you think has the best position currently?
I am not sure. CLG has a great spot. I think if Echo Fox can edge out an area over there, they've got a good spot here.
For a lot of these
WBG,
teams, like we have to bring it up, for a lot of these teams, this looks like an absolute mess. It is going to be difficult.
Yes.
Some of them have not been able to find a good spot to actually set up. We do see CLG, though, right now. They kind of have been able to take that roof. They are looking down from above, and they can see IG. IG has no business contesting here. Going to have to drop down that smoke, and it's not going to be enough. We're going to see Calzy straight through the fog, cutting down Candy Van. That's going to be 4 left for IG. Now they're all huddled up in a house. They are going to lose a dramatic amount of vision, and Echo Fox will be able to collapse in on them if they know that they are in that house. And look at this ring. It is getting so tight.
Echo Fox, after the fight for the crown, they did a play on somebody in a cabin like this before, and it worked out really badly for them during Fight for the Crown. I don't expect them on a land to want to take a fight against somebody in a cabin. It did not go well. They were able to force them out the last time, but they decided to chase. I expect them to probably try and play a different direction this round.
Heads may roll here. It's going to be WBG falling down first. Now Gorani going to try to pick up that kill on Zeke. Zeke at 25%. We see Rizar at 75%, but Gorani is in the danger zone. Only 10%. He does get the cover of the smoke, though. The shots slowing down for just a second here. Will Gorani be able to disengage? Isco, being this big slayer, needs to come up big for his team. Gorani trying to get back up, but it's going to be Gas Runner to fall from World's Best Gaming. They are falling left and right, and it is ELH coming out on top of this fight, but we do see some explosions come in, and Zeke going to fall to that. He was the lowest on his team. Everyone else going to be relatively healthy. Now, if Isco can get his slaying ability back online here, this could get WBG just back in this engagement, but overall, we are going to find this team in shambles.
Yeah, WBG is definitely not in the spot they want to be. Gorani, Isco, and Fury are absolute monster players, though, and they might be able to play their way out and edge their way closer to the top, but I think it's going to be very hard for them going into the late game, being down 2 players already. That is a rough spot to play back from for anyone.
Yeah, this is you kind of just need to throw your hands up in the air at this point and say, hey boys, we're playing for our lives, but ELH being unrelenting, Rizar still trying to sink a couple shots into the boys from WBG. They are in the position right now where being the aggressor may be the right play. Maybe they just want to get these kills on the board, and as you can see, they do have some solid lines coming in. They do have 4 members from their team up, man advantage into this fight. Shots coming in from Fury. Everyone on ELH still healthy. Isco going to be the one to take the first shot. Going to dip to about 90% here. Now it's MMX. He's going to connect onto Isco. He's all the way down to 10%. turning his eyes, though, to Fury, getting him down to 75%. But ELH needs to finish their supper. They need to get one of the kills before they switch men. It's going to be Isco who does fall. Vago with the line on him. MMX going to finish it up on Fury. But all of a sudden, they're going to turn it around, and it is going to be Garani. He gets popped on the helmet. He gets popped on the body armor. One more shot going to be able to do it. He does move back. He gets more armor on, and he gets on another helmet. MMX and Rizar, the guys who got most of these shots in, are still healthy. Memento going to find himself at 30% health, going to retreat. He needs to heal himself up. The rest of his team can find this kill, and it looks like they should be able to do it. Goodbye, Garani, and goodbye to WBG. Only 11 teams going to remain.
Yeah, getting pitched out there. He had nowhere to back up to. The only place when you end up in these tree battles is sometimes you have to take a fight. He was too low to do it, not going to be able to fight his way out of it. Echo Fox currently playing the gas right now. Looks like they might go for a big play rotation through the gas. This is a tough gas circle to go through. This next circle, they would not be able to do this on. Denial now in a fight, though, with CLG. They are going to lose Yogi, who is one of their in-game leaders. That could spell disaster for Denial. We'll see if that ends up playing out for them, all right or not. And Howie now on foot as his car gets lit up. He's extremely low in the gas. Gonna need to catch up to Flame, get a heal going. He needs to out heal. Both these players are gonna have to spend a ton of resources staying alive. We are on board with the FPS in the fight with CLG and Denial. Both teams that were in the top 3 in the last round going at it again here. CLG, that third place team. Denial going down in second. Gas pushing up onto CLG, though. Nightwalker gonna take out Sloth.
This is bad for Denial, and we're going to see a member from TK. That's 2 members from TK in your kill feed. Carter gonna get traded out with that frag. And Echo Fox in the wing right now. That play may have just been cute. I don't know if it's gonna pay off, but ultimately another member from TK going down to the gas. Engagement not over yet. Ninja from LG going to fall. This was the team leading this series. They went down with an early man disadvantage. CLG looking bloodthirsty at this point, finding themselves in a good position. Now Echo Fox going to try to come out of the smoke. Howie popping out relatively low. Tries to get behind that rock. Throwable will be enough to save him here. Going to have to use that smoke. Vinny now dropping to 50%. And Jerk Chicken, or sorry, that's Flame, still rotating around with Chicken. Chicken finds himself at about 30%. Minnie could just topple over at this point. Only 10%. He pops out, and Minnie goes down to MMX, connecting on the head. Howie going to be at 50% here. ELH finds themselves absolutely surrounded by Fox, but all of the members from Echo Fox are low. ELH, if they get their backs to each other, should be able to take out the remaining members of Echo Fox.
Yeah, Echo Fox is most likely in a situation they're not going to be able to play out of. Rizar still aware that Howie is over there. He is just waiting for these smokes to wear off. Howie still has a couple more to throw, it looks like, though. Throws out some sort of throwable. Flame and Jerk need to come up big here. They need to collapse either onto Vago or make a wide flank around back towards Howie, but CLG is on that side. Howie, I don't think, is going to be able to get saved. Rizar is going to find him with an assist from Memento, finish him off with a headshot, and IG is now throwing down with TK. Epsilon is going to be pinching onto IG as Shell Shock drops. MMX is going to go down to Jerk, who's finally finds some shots into Europe's last hope, but IG is going down quickly here. Epsilon, Obey, TK, everybody's here. IG going down quicker than they want to. I'm not sure how many they have left up or if they have anybody left up at this point.
I mean, they went for the suicide run there, but the gas was absolutely beautiful. They really stuck it to Epsilon on their way out here. We also witnessed the collapse of TK. It looks like they're not going to be making that top 5, and they're not getting that much slaying going on the board. Now, looking at Echo Fox, I think that play may have just been cute, honestly. What do you think of that smoke play? They find themselves relatively weak.
I mean, they were in a rough spot. I think they were hoping that more teams wouldn't be looking at them. They were going to be able to blast and maybe make a quick hop to take these trees away from ELH. With that death of Impact Gaming, though, LG is still in this. They're only 2 players up, but they were a 7,000-point lead for first place at the time. Shurima Wizard, though, now in a fight with Epsilon, and he's going to go down, and Piney gonna finally get picked up there. Actually, CBK Flame picks him up and then drops to the FPS. Flame shooting from the ground and finishes Piney off, and we just lost a ton of players from Hail.
Epsilon now going to drop the smoke. They are engaged with Obey, but they are still relatively damaged from the engagement that they took with IG, and now you can see all of these teams taking that perimeter of this circle. Obey and Epsilon going to be exchanging a lot of bullets here. Balin. Apex Shay's going to fall really low, down to 30%. Balin's going to be able to heal himself back up. Obey looking relatively healthy here. 2 players taking a few to the flesh. Now going to try to move in, but this smoke cover is going to give Epsilon the advantage here. Epsilon needs to get these shots in, but all of a sudden they're still falling.
Does Obey not know Epsilon is there? Heavy gonna go down to a grenade, long range from Mig there. Tifu gonna choke out on the toxic gas. Cutie Venom now taking shots from both sides. Blood Inferno gonna get lit. Mig, Cutie Venom both having to lay down. Obey on the aggressor here, trying to find them, but Epsilon is still behind them. Obey needs to recognize that there's people in those smoke nades and take that fight. Maybe they have, and they're trying to get the ridge line. Cutie Venom gonna go down to a shotgun from Beasley at close range. Epsilon coming in now and just absolutely mopping up Obey. Obey needed to take that fight to Epsilon rather than to Hale, who was already damaged, and CLG is now gonna push up and take the fight to Epsilon.
Epsilon being one of the most disruptive teams on the map. Double Molly getting thrown out here. They want to be able to take down the 2 remaining members from Epsilon. Epsilon going to dance around them beautifully and trade in a Molly of their own. Now we're going to see Drazzle come online. He takes down a member from ELH. Epsilon, or LG needs to play their lives very efficiently here. If they manage to stay alive, they should be able to clinch first place.
And
Another 2
out.
players that, we see Drazzle get taken down. Chipsy gets taken down by Memento. Epsilon, though, still just absolutely disrupting this game, but finally, one of them gets taken down. That's going to be Apex Shay, and now Epsilon is going to be sent out. We got our top 4.
Yeah, we're down to the top 4 teams. Only 7 left alive. Definitely not the situations that we have seen in other matches. Razar, full health. Looks like he might be sitting inside of something there. He might be inside of either a camper or a vehicle. I'm not quite sure. Temp's up. Mig is up. It is a 4 versus 1 versus 1 versus 1. Mig gonna go down to the FBS. CLG definitely the team that is going to take this one down, but Razar making it car play for the second time. We saw him do this in pool play yesterday, or in group stages, I'm sorry.
I mean,
did this there and got some positioning, so we'll see if ELH gets this, but CLG just needs to push. They're doing it very controlled. They don't want to drop a player and be that team that throws a 4v1v1.
I mean, the thing is, too, is CLG pretty high up on this leaderboard.
This could be big for CLG.
They actually want to be getting all of these kills, too. Like, if Tamp comes out here and randomly gets a kill or something like that from the other team that is left on the map, that could mess up CLG's placement. I think all of these points really going to matter here. LG still managed to get pretty far progressed in this 3rd game here, but it all comes down to this.
Not going to let somebody else pull his play. Flamehopper finds Razar in the car, gets the finish. Temp right here steps up, looks for the kill, gets one into Grimmy Bear, but he isn't going to drop. CLG takes down game 3 and possibly puts themselves in great contention to take down the whole tournament.
They could be taking first place here. They were very high up on that leaderboard.
I think they just secured it.
I want to be taking a look at the placements from those first 2 games overall, see where everyone did fall, and then when everyone in the back is calculating these scores, see what happened in Game 3. LG definitely gave everyone a run for their money, and they came in with a man disadvantage in this one. They had some players drop relatively early, but they played it out very well. Drazzle being one of the players to hold it till the very end there. He was supported by one other player. I'm trying to remember who it was.
No,
it was Chipsy, right?
CLG, actually. Yeah, LG was in there for a little bit, but they lost some players early. CLG, Counter Logic, is actually the team.
No. I'm saying that LG basically held on for a long time because they were so high up on the leaderboard.
I completely misheard you.
That can actually be a factor. They still could potentially get it, but I think CLG was up high enough that they should, just with that 170K.
I think they were within range to take that one down.
Yeah, and they get that additional slaying as well. Big win for CLG here. We're going to have to find out in just a little bit as we calculate the score whether or not they are the champions.
Yeah, I mean, that game played out very different from what we saw in the first 2 rounds. Still a safe zone in that southeast corner, but a very different region, and that kind of shows how just a small shift of the safe zone can affect the game greatly. A small area change is a very different overall feel for how much cover and things that you can make use of and how those players can adapt to those safe zones. And CLG playing that one, as we called it from when they were inside the building, they had a ton of visibility. They basically got to see where everybody was going, where everyone was, and find themselves a perfect line into the safe zone to come in and just disrupt and eat everybody up as they were fighting.
That is so important to talk about as well. I mean, CLG got on the top of that building, right? And now necessarily when the ring actually does collapse in on itself, they can't keep that building. So it seems like it wasn't necessarily a high-value place to perch for that long, but the reason that it is and it has such a huge impact on the game is because it allows them to scout. It allows them to pick their best route and the best POI to huddle up in when they do actually move to the new safe zone.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we see that sweep. We saw a sweep almost every time in fives. The team that takes first in the games, you can fight from the middle, take second, do really well, place well, and do it consistently. That's great. But the team that takes the game is almost always the guy that finds the right position on the outside and can continue to just stay on that edge and sweep in during that final circle to disrupt everything. That tends to be the team that just takes everything down.
Yeah, and we saw that throughout the entire tournament, and we really should recap the tournament as everything does get crunched. All of the numbers get spewed out, and we can figure out who our victors are of this group play of the competition. Now, of course, we got to Atlanta on Friday for the H1Z1 Elite Series, and we kicked that off with some solos qualifier action. Started with 140 players and whittled it down to the number one. We split them up in two groups of 60, and then the top 20 players from each of those solo groups qualified for that grand final. And then we had an additional 20 players waiting who were pre-qualified. Then we had the finals of that last night. We crowned our champion. And then from there, we should talk about actually the players who we crowned from that solo queue.
Yes, I mean, players that came up big in the whole thing there last night. Obviously, Sweet Dreams from Rogue taking home the grand prize. Absolutely killing it, extremely consistent through all three games. At the point we saw Rogue, all the players in the front that were there watching their player make it, realized at the 10th spot, as soon as he went down, that it didn't matter. He was taking it home, took off and ran for it. We had Prox come in big, played very consistently as well. Very young player, 17 at his first LAN, takes down second place and top kills after tying with Sweet Dreams, but wins the tiebreaker system. So he ends up taking home a bunch of extra money plus the original prize. And then Aladdin, who was also just an extremely consistent player in all three of those. I believe all three of those players I made top 12 every single round of the solo finals.
And that's why we keep stressing that consistency is just absolutely key in this format. It's not necessarily gun skill. It really just comes down to being able to consistently play the game.
There's a lot of back-end strategy that people don't realize is happening and being able to read your surroundings.
Yeah, and 100K went out for those solo queues before even counting all of the bounty money, which is $100 for every single kill, plus an additional $3,000 for the first place winner. But we weren't done there. We decided we have another 150K to give out for teams. We do the qualifiers yesterday. We get here with the 12 best teams. 5 of them have pre-qualified. The others qualified through the same system that we used for solos. Today was crazy.
Yeah, today was nuts. I love solos. I love fives. Fives for me, those end games are just so fun to watch and see how some of these teams outplay and do these funny things that we're seeing them kind of play out of cars. Flame Hopper definitely not letting somebody else use his
pretty
play.
Much in every single game, players just hiding for placement, and it's absolutely key. But a thing that we didn't mention yet is just how ridiculous were these rings that we saw through all 3 games here in the grand final of
we used loaded dice here for the finals today. Absolutely
bonkers.
Yeah,
absolutely bonkers to see the players have to adapt to something that was a difficult thing to adapt to, playing in these areas that they're not used to the final safe zones actually being in. And we did see CLG be one of those teams that adapted very well to this difficult type of play.
Yeah, absolutely. CLG adapting very well in each safe zone, and they were all very close, but they did shift just enough to give us a little bit of different feel each time. But they're really brutal, and emotionally and mentally, that is draining as a player to get that. That is a tough situation. That's almost a pressure to see how well you can handle going back into the situation that you just had to deal with in the last game and play the safe zone, and now I've got to go back down and play similar areas. It's kind of nice because you have just been there. It's fresh in your mind. You remember the surroundings, but it's also extremely difficult to have to go back and play the same spot if maybe you're a team that didn't do well or doesn't like that part of the map. Having to play through the pressure of going to the same spot a few different times in a row, it can be brutal.
Oh yeah, I can't imagine when the players actually saw that the second ring and then the third ring were in those areas. Just
The first ring came out. I'm really surprised we didn't just hear an kind of roar from the players.
Difficult.
It's hard to go to that same spot over and over again.
But to see teams come out on top with it is really impressive because we saw consistently. That was the thing that you mentioned. Certain teams performing really well, even though maybe
a lot
they
of
didn't
invited
necessarily.
teams actually.
The invited teams did. I think the invited teams shined at a level that is higher than we saw in solos. In solos, I think we saw a lot of the invited players just having lackluster performances. Obviously, some of them showed up in a huge way.
There's a lot higher percentage chance of guys having that when it's
for sure.
Think of it like 60 teams in there. There's a lot lower chance to go ahead and take down that win. But yeah, we definitely saw. Sweet Dreams.
Sweet Dreams was an invited player.
Yeah.
He manages to get first place. We see Illusions be incredibly aggressive. He plays well. Aladdin also playing incredibly well. He was an invited solo player. And Granny able to pick one up as well. Everyone else, though, did kind of fall off.
Yeah, but I mean, again, we talk about this in Sweet Dreams takes down first, and Aladdin takes down third. So we did see consistent play. These invited player pools are who showed up over the tournament. So invited is kind of a weird concept for some people, having some players invited and some people qualifying, especially with an H1. It's a newer thing to H1.
It's just based off of the other tournaments that they have been able to play.
Yeah.
You know, they essentially already qualified themselves into the tournament. I'm curious to see exactly if this invited format does stay as we move over to DreamHack Winter when we get to Sweden. And if we do, is it based off of this tournament? That'll be an interesting thing to know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that going forward, most likely we now have more points of data to go off of to get this better. As time goes on these things and we start seeing consistency, we start being able to use statistics to determine if we are doing invite solutions. We can invite based off statistics. There's other things that come into play in these, but you can have more points of data, which gives you an ability to target in and really get people that are going to shine. And it does show that the system is functioning, and these systems tend to get better as time goes on. They only get better.
We're seeing a new format here for the Elite Series.
Yeah, which is a big step forward.
And these qualifying matches, I think, played out exactly how the players wanted them to in a large. I'm excited to talk to the
players. Aside from safe zones, I'm pretty sure that it played out much different than what they've done in previous experiences.
And we just keep adapting and growing. That's been the great thing to see H1Z1 really just start to grow here. And Atlanta was a big step.
Yeah, Atlanta was a huge step, and it's still only the first step in the series. We are still going to have later this year, we will be going to Sweden for DreamHack Winter, which I've heard is absolutely insane, and I cannot wait to see what the crowd noise and energy is in Sweden.
Yeah, I mean, after hearing it here, if it's any louder than this, I don't know how we'll be able to actually cast or think. It's been insane here. The energy's just absolutely insane. Been a pleasure to be here. Had so much fun at this DreamHack, but we still do have some business to do. We have $150,000 to give out. And, of course, the top 5 teams will be receiving a portion of this prize pool, and the King Share going to go to first place. And I would be interested to see what the actual breakdown is. We saw it a little bit earlier. My head does not retain the numbers very well, but all the money is going to be going to the top 5 teams.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact breakdowns. I do know that the bounty, though, is a $3,000 bonus to that top kill. I don't know if Chipsy was able to hold on to that. We'll have to see how the other players played out. They were within a few kills of each other, but Chipsy was in the lead going into that game. He had 8. I'm not sure if he netted himself a kill that round or not. We'll find out once they kind of tabulate that. They're doing them all together at the moment.
Here we go.
We have the results so far from Game 3. Let's go ahead and check that out and see where all of these players shook out and how these teams performed.
This is going to be a big moment. When we see these final results here, we can see how many points Counter Logic Gaming were actually able to pick up here. They're at 185K for that performance. Absolutely huge. Another team that you need to look at is going to be Luminosity. They're only able to pick up 76K there. This may mean that Counter Logic Gaming was able to take it.
I think it's going to be extremely close in that upper half there.
Right.
Impact Gaming, though, going down in 10th. Luminosity is going to go ahead and beat them out. But I do believe we have the overall, and we can cut over to crown our champions. And CLG, with a almost 50,000 point spread, is going to take down first at the first stop of the DreamHack Elite Series for H1Z1, $50,000.
Yeah, you got to give it up for CLG. Luminosity still going to be able to take that second place. They're going to take home 35K. And Impact Gaming gets to take 20K. And you can see just how far ahead these 3 teams are. The top 3 really do move up in the leaderboard by a wide margin. And now Counter Logic Gaming going to get their trophy, going to get this 50K prize pool. And then we get to see who actually got the highest amount of kills.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll get to see that, and we see Da FPS comes in at the end, 10 kills, gonna take down $4,000 for himself. CLG clutching it up, taking down first in kills, taking down first in overall. Absolutely awesome. Measly coming in second with 9 kills, netting himself $900. Chipsy not able to score a kill in that last game, gonna take down third with 800. Aqua and Triv also in that same scenario without any kills. $600 and $500 going to go to both of those players.
The CLG guys are actually next to us. They were looking at our computer screen when that graphic popped up. Flamehopper runs over to tell FPS he just won $4,000. It is so great to actually be at the event and get to see the players see when they do win. But this is massive for CLG. They are taking
huge.
Everything here in group play.
And we go back and we talk about these teams that were pre-qualified coming in, and a lot of them make it into these top 5 scenarios again. Denial taking 5th place again. We didn't really touch on that. So Denial still cracking that top 5. We saw, I believe, 3 of the invited teams make top 5 overall today.
And we also, of course, are going to see those teams that have those late finishes also slaying really heavy. LG comes in 2nd place, 2 of their players taking home some of the bounty prizes.
Yeah, absolutely. This thing has been nuts, man. This has been a roller coaster of 3 days here in Atlanta. I'm such a high emotional level here because I can't. No matter who wins or loses, I love all these guys and seeing this community grow and getting to watch this and be able to be here and have the honor of casting and talking back and letting these guys in the audience and the players at home that are watching online. It has been an absolute honor to be here this weekend.
It has just been absolutely electric. Major congratulations to Sweet Dreams for winning yesterday, taking home $25K in solos. Prox manages to come in 2nd and also picks up the most bounty kills. And today we get to see CLG take it, and .FPS going to take home an extra $4,000 for posting the most kills in team play.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got to give another big shout out to our sponsors who helped all of this go off. Could not have done it without them. Asus, Republic of Gamers, supplying us with our rigs and our monitors for this weekend. Big thank you to them, and also to Corsair for all the peripherals. There's no way that we could have done this without the support from these sponsors. So thank you very much.
I mean, it also just isn't a show without all of you guys watching at home. Thank you so much for being here with us all along the way, being in chat. It's just been so much fun, and we can't wait to see you next time. It's going to be at DreamHack Winter. We will see you in Sweden.
Have a good one, guys.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's YKL, so welcome back to another one of the live streams. That was a show today, guys. That was pretty awesome to watch. Luminosity Gaming taking that first W, then the second one being Impact Gaming. Third off, Counter Logic Gaming would be the one to take the third game home. They ultimately ended up winning. That was pretty awesome. The entire time I was kind of rooting for, Rogue. Unfortunately, they actually didn't make it to the finals, but I was rooting for them pretty much the entire time. Same as Luminosity. They fortunately made it to, what was it, second right now? If I'm not mistaken, they should have made second and Impact third. I need to check my my top 5s. Let me see this real fast. This is not the right one. No, that's yesterday's. Okay. I should be right. Where is it? This one. No, that's not it. Guys, I'm failing so bad right now. I downloaded it, right? Maybe I didn't. Huh. Well, CLG took home the first. Second would be Luminosity, and then Impact Gaming as the third place. That was pretty awesome show to watch. That was the final game, the final stream for DreamHack Atlanta. I can't wait for DreamHack. What is it? Oh crap! What country was it? Was it Sweden or Switzerland? One of those two. That's gonna be fun. I should probably take my photos off the screen, but I will be streaming those whenever that event comes out. But in the meantime, I will be uploading H1Z1 videos onto my channel, as well as PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds videos, and possibly some, just mainly those types of videos on my channel you'll see. So I appreciate you guys for coming to my channel to watch the stream. You guys could have went to go watch it on Twitch if you didn't know. I'm sure you guys figured that out while watching it. Nobody was streaming it on Twitch, so I decided, or not on Twitch, nobody was streaming it on YouTube, so I was like, hey, I'll just stream it on YouTube. Nobody's streaming it over here, because I know some people, Sweden, thanks, I appreciate that. DreamHack winner, there we go. And no, there's not any codes, but I was like, nobody's streaming it on YouTube, so I guess I'll stream it. Yeah, guys, I'm not affiliated with Daybreak or H1 in any form, just a big fan of the game. I just love playing the game all the time. Almost every day I'll play it, and I was just like, hey, let's just start streaming the events and have a great time watching them. So it was a fun weekend watching all these events. I literally did absolutely nothing but watch these events. So on one hand, I'm kind of glad the events are over, and on the other, I'm like, come on, let's get some more events going on. But DreamHack winter will be fun. Can't wait for that to come around. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for coming to the channel, watching the stream over here. Thank you guys so much for dropping likes on it, and also those of you who have been watching these past 4 streams, these past 3 days. I appreciate you guys a lot. Thank you to those of you who have subscribed to the channel. I will be uploading H1Z1 content, as well as PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds content, so stay on the lookout for that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys, hopefully, in my next video. Peace out, guys.